All right, this is the December video chat. Uh, Still been working on that. That side video did not get finished, unfortunately, but it's uh, what's next is a Christmas episode. That's what I've been working on for the past week or two. I think it can actually come out a day or two early, but we'll see. I'm giving myself a buffer just in case I'm vastly underestimating things again, but a lot of it's done. What I guess, yeah, my plan is to get the Christmas episode done, then go back to that big side video I was working on to finish that. I'm still on the countdown system. For people wondering what that is a few months back, I decided just everything just keeps spiraling out of control with me. So I made, my plan was to make like 9 or 10 videos from that point, and then after that I was gonna stop and just work exclusively on the movie for a while. It doesn't mean I'll be ending videos or other stuff, but it means that like a month might go by with no new videos like Game Dungeon or Freeman's Mind. Another month might go by. I won't let it go too long, but I really need to get my bearings on the movie with like the technical framework of things. And then once I have that, I'll slowly start getting more regular videos out again. So because I figure otherwise it just perpetually gets bumped because I'm feeling the pressure to get another video out. But so yeah, this is still on the countdown. Oh yeah, and this has been asked before. I will continue to do the video chats during that time because that doesn't take much from it. In fact, I can give technical updates if you want during that time. So yeah, the video chats, well, those will continue. So, but other stuff is just gonna stop while I work on the movie. So, let's see. Yeah. Oh yeah, and this is just a real minor question for people. I think I brought this up before. Yeah, because there's usually game sales going on around Christmas time. I was wondering, is there any utility, I guess particularly for Steam, but maybe for GOG also, where you can view only games meeting your parameters? Because I tried downloading like augmented Steam in a browser, and it really didn't do what I was looking for. Because I noticed last time there was a sale, I clicked on like, games under $15 or under $10, and then like half the list was, you have added this to your ignore list. You have added this to your. It's like, well, why are you telling me if like half of it's all showing this ignore? I kind of want to get it where, yeah, like, again, this isn't that important. I'm just kind of thinking out loud. I'm probably asking for something that doesn't exist. My ideal scenario would be it shows me the games, and then I can like put them into different categories. Like ones I just don't want to see them, like I'm not interested in them. Others I'm interested, but I already have this game, so I don't need to see this again. And maybe I could have like a maybe category, and another one could be. This one might be harder to coordinate. Don't show this to me unless it's below $15 or below $10. So I am interested, but not at this price. And so that way, everything that's left are only going to be titles I've never seen before, or else I haven't sorted yet. And it seems like that would help people, interested in a lot of games, get much deeper into like game exploration, because the stuff you've already made a decision on, you're never seeing that again unless you want to on purpose, or if it's during a sale and it met your price point, that sort of thing. So, and the thing is, when you go to Steam or a page or anything like that, you're always going to see these like AAA titles that you've seen 50 times already advertising for that. So it would, it seems like there's room for improvement there. It's like, yeah, I'm aware these games exist. I've made my decision on them. Now let me see the weird stuff I might not be familiar with, that sort of thing. But again, it may not exist. But yeah, I guess I don't really have any other announcements that I can remember. I'm just mostly working on the videos. So you might even be able to guess what I'm gonna have for this. This one isn't like super obscure that I'm covering. It's gonna have snow. It's going to have snow for the next game dungeons. So if everything goes well, it'll be out on Friday. If it doesn't, it'll be later. So yeah, it's not going to be a Find the Magic game. All right, I guess I should start answering the questions. Oh yeah, okay. This relates to the videos. Have you considered staggering your videos deliberately? And they're saying, well, actually, I did do that for, I guess, October. I was originally going to have Trick Style. I was hoping to have Trick Style in September. But then it was started, as I was getting closer to finishing it, I realized this was getting too close to Halloween. So if I got it out, it would be just like a few days before Halloween. So I figured, well, this doesn't make sense then because everybody's going to be expecting a Halloween themed episode. So I just decided to postpone it, push that till after I got the Halloween episode done, which is just as well because it looks like I was underestimating time with that too. But yeah, they're saying, you know, you could have had one video in late October, one late September, one late December. I mean, I guess, well, why is my main question. I mean, if I got done early with a holiday episode, I would do that. And in fact, that's been my plan multiple times in the past. And that usually, I think it's coming less to the wire this time than previous times, but that almost never works out. But yeah, if it wasn't a holiday episode, I could do that. I mean, not this one because it's a Christmas episode, but say this was a different month and I was planning to release it this month. I could just sit on it for another 3 or 4 weeks and then release it. But again, why? I mean, it just gives you more options if I release it as it's done, because then, you know, it's not like there's like a limited time you can watch the video. I try to make them I don't know if timeless is the right word, but not too dated. You know, I might mention 1 or 2 things that are relevant to what's going on at the time, but most of it you could watch years later. So, yeah, and under the comments, nobody really mentioned what. Yeah, from the viewer perspective, is that something people want? I mean, I guess it would be a little more regular, but I would just be sitting on the videos. There just doesn't seem that much point to it to me. But, yeah, I mean, I can. If people really want that, I can do it. But I'm still not going to promise like a regular schedule. But I could say, you know, if there is a video available for that month, I would release it. That I could intentionally stagger it more, but this sounds like it's something that like this is a thought maybe fans have had and it might make more sense, but it doesn't make a lot of sense to me because this isn't television, you know, where you have, you know, advertising deals lined up to go at this time. And right, no, you get the videos as I'm done with them. The only other time I intentionally delay them, well, if there's a big error, then that can get a delay. Once I realize there's a mistake I made, I have to re-render and everything. The other reason is sometimes it's going later than I thought, and I'm done at like after midnight or something. And I've heard before it's better on YouTube if you release during like more middle of the day sort of thing. So when that happens, sometimes I intentionally delay it like 1 day just to release it more during a more palpable time window. Yeah, I may be stuttering a little bit because it's a bit chilly in here. So not quite at shivering level, but it's cold. But yeah, they're saying imagine it's like burning your whole supply in a night versus using it slowly over time. I think that's why. Well, there's other YouTubers. I mean, yeah. I guess this is for the people who want to have it more spaced out, but don't have the impulse control to watch it like that. I don't know. I guess. Yeah, I guess a lot of the economy depends on people like that, but Yeah, I don't know. I would have to see a poll on this or something. And if there was a significant portion that wanted to like, say, no, just release as you're done, Ross, then it's going to continue like that. Now, the movie might be a little bit different because I actually will kind of want to hype that up. That's one of the, maybe the only thing I've made that I actually do want to hype up because I think it's going to be that good. And I'll have a trailer before that. And then I might have an official release date for that and I might be done like maybe a month ahead of time, but I want to be extra sure I've worked out any problems or errors with it, that sort of thing. So the movie might be a special exception. I could have a release date for the movie once it's like really getting close to ready, and then have a trailer before that and that sort of thing. But yeah, for the regular videos, I would need more of a reason. Okay, more questions. Oh yeah, I tried my best. I didn't spend quite as much time on it as I wanted to, but I had a lot of like, what's the best fill in the blank questions this time. So those always take me more prep time. So some of them I got to, a few I didn't, but I think this is one of them. Yeah, they're saying, yeah, they're working on a prequel to They Hunger called More Hunger. That's a good name for it. Do you have any advice on bringing back old mods, games, and remake, sequel, prequel form? Remake's the tricky one, I think. For sequel and prequel, yeah, okay, I guess I have a little bit of, yeah, he has a sort of a double question here. And they're saying, like keeping the same aspects of an old game but making it better and satisfying old fans. If a big studio approached you and said, hi Ross, you now have access to a whole game studio with staff. What game do you want to bring back from the dead and how would you change it? Well, I guess for the first one, for a remake, I guess a remake, you probably want to stay as true to the original as you can. But, you know, sometimes things haven't aged well. So, let's see. Oh, wow. And looks like we have spam in the chat. So, I would read. Let's see. Well, I think there's some mods. I'm not sure if remake, you probably want to stay as close to the original as you can, or I guess really mix it up so people who have played the original have something fresh besides graphics and just a smoother experience. So, yeah, you can go either way with a remake. A sequel, you kind of just want to figure out what people liked about the original and try and have more of the same, but maybe you can add something new with this. Maybe add something very new with the story or a new gameplay element. Prequel, you can have some of that, but the thing about prequels is you know how it's going to end up. So that always takes some of the appeal out of it to me a little bit. What I found that I really like, what I found the prequels that I like the most are ones that almost veer off 90 degrees from the original. Like, okay, this is hardly the best movie, but I really appreciated this aspect about it, is Prometheus. Because that one, it's a prequel to Alien and Aliens. So you kind of know it's going to have the alien or everything, but it introduces like the things like the engineers and this other planet and this other kind of society. And it's making you raise questions where you're thinking, whoa, well, what was going on with this group? And that aspect is great because then it feels fresh because you already know how it's going to end up with the aliens, but you have no idea about this new element. It's like, well, what happened with them? So that keeps it fresh, and I like that aspect of it. So, they're saying, oh, that was a bot? Well, no, okay, yeah, it's a bot, but it's spamming, so yeah. So yeah, that seems like the way. I think that's the best way to handle prequels. Or another prequel that I never even realized was a prequel for a long time is Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, because that one's less like a prequel and more just like complete side story, and I'm fine with that. That's the thing I don't really like about prequels, is that I know how it's going to end, so I don't want to see just a bunch of events explaining how you got to the original thing that you cared about. I want something new and keeps that keeps me guessing what's going to happen. Okay, yeah, and the other, for They Hunger, that's a pretty, that one could be interesting because you could show more of a zombie outbreak, I guess. So it's, They Hunger isn't one that's the story is its strength. It's more like it had good gameplay and good atmosphere, and it was just a really solid mod or total conversion. So that one is kind of more of the same anyway. You can almost do whatever you want. Let's see. Okay, I will say something that might counter common wisdom. You don't necessarily need. I've heard a lot of people say before, like, "Oh, you should have callbacks to the original." It's like, well, maybe. I mean, in fact, I think if you have a lot of that, that can kind of make it seem more cheap or cheesy, like you're low on ideas. Usually, if people are watching a sequel or a prequel or something, you got to figure out what they liked about the original. So it could be the characters, or it could be like the sort of the setting that it is. Focus on that. So yeah, in the case of Indiana Jones, we're here for Indiana Jones and adventure. So that's what we're there for. So as long as Indiana Jones shows up, we don't need tons of references back to his other adventures. That doesn't add anything, in my opinion. Or again, They Hunger, we're there for the zombies and the creepy atmosphere and a good first-person shooter experience. So we don't necessarily need like tons of references back to the original game, like for specific events or something. I mean, you can have one or two as a joke. In fact, Last Crusade did a good job with that, where there's saying, "Yeah, what is this? It's the Ark of the Covenant. Are you sure? Pretty sure." I mean, and that was just a good throwaway to the Raiders of the Lost Ark. I figure you shouldn't have much more than that, because if you're just dropping all these references, it's like it's like detracting from what the new story is supposed to have, or the new game, that sort of thing. So yeah, you don't need a lot of references. You just need the core of what people liked about the original. Let's see. For people putting all these questions, I'll answer the live ones at the end. So otherwise, I can't keep up. But right now, I'm doing the ones people voted on the most. And he's saying, yeah. And the other question was, yeah, if I had a game studio with staff, what game do I bring back from the dead, and how would I change it? Okay, I wrote down a few answers. I could easily have a better answer later on that I just forgot about. The ones I wrote down were, well, this one's sort of a cheat answer. I've said before, I'd love something that would be like a single-player PlanetSide. PlanetSide original is kind of dead. I mean, well, PlanetSide 2 has most of what I appreciated about the original. I'd love to have like something tailored for a single-player version that have these giant, kind of futuristic ground battles going on that could have a big war campaign like that. I haven't seen. I'd like to see more of that sort of thing. I haven't finished the game, but I was liking a lot of what I was seeing. Is the game Normality? It's this 3D Doom engine-ish game where I think it has to deal with censorship, but it's like kind of it's sort of like a quirky dystopia. It has lots of weird stuff in it, and it had weird characters, and the graphics are pretty dated, although that didn't really hurt it. But I wouldn't mind, like widescreen support, mouse control, that sort of thing, and maybe like a bigger city to explore. That would be neat, and just have something like that. Although I haven't finished the game, so I'm kind of judging prematurely on it. Let's see. This one wouldn't be a top choice, but this one I thought of when I was thinking. I was trying to think of like a multiplayer mod to that might bring back. Uh, One I enjoyed was called. It was a mod for. God, I can't even remember if it was Half-Life or Half-Life 2. It kind of bleeds together. I think it was original Half-Life. Science and Industry, where you had these two kind of competing uh, research development firms, and what you would do, and the whole game would basically be going and committing corporate sabotage against the enemy, and you would try to like steal their scientists or like plant radios that they couldn't find to disrupt their research, and you could. And the thing is, as a team, you would vote on what research upgrade you wanted next, and you could vote things like stronger coffee to have better research going on, or you could have these weird. Yeah, they had a C4 briefcase, which is basically like a suicide move to. So you would arm it and then run through and just blow stuff up, and then yeah, and then you had shared resources too, and whenever your character got cloned because they died, yeah, you would awaken in the cloning chamber, and that would be resources off of your team. It had a really cool kind of premise to it. I feel like you could kind of develop that more. Give it more of a like a studio with a budget treatment to it. I had an idea for making kind of a machinima out of that, but I have to kind of cut my losses with what I'm working on. It was a fun mod. Oh yeah, I was trying to think of. Yeah, all the weapons were kind of quirky too. I'm trying to trying to remember some of the others. There was, well, they had a GI I think it was called GI destabilizer, where the character would empty their bowels in like this blast wave, and that would kind of freeze them for a minute. No, they would vomit too, and that would kind of freeze them. And yeah, you could use the briefcase as just a regular melee weapon. Yeah, that they had regular guns, but then they had like real exotic stuff too but you'd have to research those. And there were other upgrades you could get. Yeah, but a lot of the upgrades were kind of pedestrian, like pistols or a shotgun or something, or better armor. And I was thinking you kind of would want to lean into the goofy element and have all your upgrades be stuff that's like have almost everything be not obviously better than another one unless you're going for certain strategies. So maybe you could have some stuff that would favor stealth, or some stuff that would favor mobility, but not have stuff that's just pure more damage, that sort of thing. So I would maybe change it like that. And basically, also whenever you have a bunch of gamers on a game, they tend to beeline for the most effective path of upgrades. So you would have to try to work out some balancing so that things are just kind of side grades for. I mean, there might be some you definitely want to have, but they would be competing. Yeah, kind of like the mods with Deus Ex. So maybe you can upgrade go down one upgrade path, but then not go down the other if you do that. And again, it can favor different play styles, that sort of thing. Yeah, it was an interesting mod. There might still be people playing it. It was kind of unique, but yeah, and I like I like the theme of it too. That these are just these kind of corporations just working against each other. I think was amalgamated. I forgot the names of them, but I like the idea of it, that they're just going more and more over the top, and they're just two competing corporations or laboratories, that sort of thing. Oh, and the other answer I have, which was pretty solid answer, would be Messiah, the game, because that game had a great setting, had a great sense of humor, interesting characters, interesting gameplay, really promising gameplay premise, but the execution just kind of felt off to me. I mean, it wasn't that fun to play. It's just I was really wanting to like this game. So, yeah, have a resurrection of Messiah, and just have the similar comedy, but like develop the storyline more, develop the world more, have like really lean into the possession gameplay aspects of it, to have a lot of characters react to that. So yeah, Messiah is bursting with potential. It's just that's a game that really could have benefited by more modern game design and like more resources to throw at it. You know. Did you catch on the oof noise from Messiah was the same in Roblox? About 1 million people told me that. I did not know that when I made the video though. So I'm not always up to speed with kind of internet culture stuff, but I'll mention that in the follow-up. Okay, so I should move on to another. So those are the answers I have for now. But again, I'm sure there's extremely promising games to have, a resurrection of, or a sequel or that sort of thing. Oh yeah, this was one I had trouble. Okay, chat, post your answers if you have ones as you hear this question. I lost my place. Oh yeah, what are your thoughts on hub worlds and single player games? Do you have any favorites? And he's mentioning UNATCO from Deus Ex, Peach's Castle from Super Mario 64. Do you have any favorites? I'm just drawing a blank for sure. I mean, I love the UNATCO area, but I want to say half of that is because of the music and just the whole sort of everything that led around that's built around the atmosphere of the Deus Ex world. It's not that impressive by itself, but it's not bad. Okay, somebody's saying Prague from Deus Ex Mankind Divided. Yeah, somebody's saying UNATCO isn't really a hub world. Yeah, I agree. It's sort of half and half, like because you come back there repeatedly, but it's not a normal hub world. So it's saying, I'm not even sure how to pronounce it, Mayula in Dark Souls 2. I have played Dark Souls 2 with cheats though, so is heresy for some. It was okay. It's like nicer. Honestly, I feel like Dark Souls 1 kind of had nicer areas overall than 2. But like even that includes the hub area. I was thinking about the Dark Souls stuff, but so much of the Dark Souls stuff is just a bunch of ruins. Like it has less appeal. Okay, Sonic Unleashed had beautiful hub worlds. I've only played some of that. Okay. Jotun. Okay. I haven't played that, so I can't comment on that one. Okay, somebody's saying the Firehouse and Ghostbusters video game. I haven't played that one. Let's see. Delfino Plaza. I don't know which game that's from. So yeah, I guess I haven't played enough hub world games that I'm trying to my memory says there are hub worlds that I definitely liked and I thought had a lot of atmosphere going for them, but I'm just drawing a blank on which one. That's the problem, is a lot of these I need to see like a giant list, and then once those jog my memory, I could think, oh yeah, okay, those. But okay, there's somebody saying that's from Super Mario Sunshine. Is from Delfino Plaza. Yeah, I haven't played Super Mario Sunshine. Okay, well that's this is gonna come up in another question. I guess that's sort of a cheat answer. It's not that great, but it looks okay. Is the one from Destiny 2? I've played that one. It's just sort of a farm stuff in the distance, but it's not that. The camps in the first Gothic. That's another one where it's like, is that one really a hub world? But yeah, that one. It's sort of another half hub world. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I'd have to think about it more and figure out what game I'm thinking of that had good hub worlds. Because you know how when you remember things, you don't always remember a lot of details or specifically what it was, but you can remember how you felt about it. And that's sort of the thought I'm having. Let's see. Oh yeah, if anybody's having a question they were like burning to answer, I usually post a notice on these on the website, Twitter, and more recently on YouTube community post. If I remember, to submit the questions on Reddit, and the reason I do that is so that people can vote on them. So if I can't get to everybody's question, I get on the ones that people most wanted to see. So let's see. Okay, well, so I don't have a lot of great answers for hub worlds, but I know there's some that I'm forgetting. Oh yeah, you said in the past that you think Doom is overrated. Are there any other popular, renowned, well-praised video games you think are also overrated? He mentions Half-Life 2, Grand Theft Auto, System Shock, BioShock, The Witcher series, etc. Yeah, and I'm probably gonna make a lot of people upset with this question. Okay, so we'll go by the ones he mentioned first. Half-Life 2, I do think is overrated, but I think it's a very solid game. It's just one I've seen too much of. Yeah, I remember, was it the magazine Maximum PC gave it an 11 out of 10, and they've never done that for anything else. And it's a good game, but it's not that good, I don't think. So, I mean, 11 out of 10, that means, like, if I was gonna give an 11 out of 10 to a game, it would have to be something like you know how Microsoft Flight Simulator has modeled the entire world? It's like it would have to be something where you can also go down on the ground and talk to people anywhere or something, and then have all these interesting stories in it also. And the gameplay's like something where it's just like, you know, it has so much you could possibly even fathom that, you know. Okay, Grand Theft Auto, I don't think that one's really overrated. I mean, they put a lot of effort into that. With Grand Theft Auto, though, it feels like it's sort of saturated with me. It's like I feel, because the gameplay is pretty similar between them, and there's just so many ads for those games when they come out or get hyped up. So it's just, I hear about them hundreds of times. But there's a lot, I mean, you can do a whole lot in those games. It's an incredible amount of work that's gone into it. So I haven't played 5. I've played the 3, the expansions to 3, Vice City and San Andreas, and I've played 4. And I played a little bit of the original, so. Yeah, I'm just sort of saturated with Grand Theft Auto, but I don't think it's overhyped. I think there's actually, I remember that there was somebody made like sort of a snarky comment. They're saying about this guy who reviewed Grand Theft Auto 3 when it came out, because that was sort of the watershed mark where there was not much like 3 when it came out. It just kind of raised the bar on things. And this guy was he was giving this review where this guy was just an obvious fanatic about this, and it was kind of hilarious. You say, it's just like, oh my God, you could steal the car and run off with the cops. Like, you could tell, like, this was blowing this guy's mind. It was kind of comical. I liked it. Okay, so, yeah, looking at okay, so what else did he mention? Half-Life 2. System Shock I don't think is overrated. I think that one's underrated. However, that said, I do think the original BioShock is definitely overrated. That one's way up there for me. I feel like everyone, or like 90% or more of the people who are just up and down praising BioShock never played System Shock 2. I mean, I think, so it's like, if you've played, and it's not just that I've seen it first, you've seen all these things first, and then so BioShock feels like a repeat. It's that, except for the graphics, I think I prefer System Shock 2 in every other way. Although I played it with, that it was modded, so it wasn't as brutal difficulty. Like, the items didn't decay, and they lowered the respawning, I think is what You can just enable those by a configuration. And it's like I like the story better. I like the setting better. I thought it was scarier. I thought the story flow. I thought the pacing was better. I kind of like the gameplay better for System Shock 2 compared to BioShock. Obviously, the graphics are much better on BioShock, but I haven't played BioShock 2. I'd say BioShock Infinite, it was maybe overhyped a little bit, but at least that one was treading on new ground. Like gameplay, I don't think it's that impressive, but in terms of the environment, and I don't know if I'd praise the story, but they were certainly trying with the story. I'll say that for BioShock Infinite. They were trying to make it fresh and original. So yeah, but yeah, the original BioShock, I mean, oh yeah, okay, here's a homework assignment for those that are interested. I originally wasn't that interested when I heard about BioShock because I wasn't crazy about like the 50s or 60s setting, even though the underwater aspect sounded kind of neat. And I watched this kind of alpha gameplay video where one of the developers, I think, was talking about it, or it could have been a journalist who had interviewed a developer. And they were talking about all these aspects in it that, that it was, they won me over by the end of it because they were saying you were really going to influence a lot. There were going to be these competing factions, and you could have like influence on how the societies may progress over the course of the game. And like it was sounding more like an RPG, much more of like an RPG hybrid where you were going to have like a big impact on this world, and like these are like living, breathing societies that were kind of going on independent of your actions also. And I was thinking, okay, well, this is a lot more to it than I first thought. Okay, I'm kind of interested in this now. And then, yeah, it didn't happen at all. So if you can find that original video, I don't, this was, I guess it was in 2007 or 2006, something like that. I mean, it could have been on GameSpot, IGN, I don't know. But yeah, so I'd love to have that as a reference to, remind myself I'm not crazy on some things. Occasionally my memory does get skewed and I remembered it off, but I don't think I did on this one. I mean, it changed my mind by the end of it. Like, I wasn't that interested. I saw this promotion, I thought, oh, okay, actually, that brings another one, which I can't comment on it personally, but judging from the group consensus, it sounds like Cyberpunk fell into that category. I'm still, well, one, I think I'm going to have to wait for an upgrade before I play that one, but I'm also waiting until they're done with making the game because, I mean, that launched it was very buggy when it launched. And also, I saw an article, I think it was on PC Gamer. I didn't read it because I realized I didn't want to, but they were saying, here's a list of all the features that were advertised to be in Cyberpunk that aren't in the game. And it was like a significant list. I'm thinking, oh, yikes, I don't want to know what I'm missing, like what the game was supposed to have. So I'm kind of waiting until, like, yeah, they're working on expansion for Cyberpunk. I'm thinking maybe they'll roll in some of these original features into the expansion. I have seen games do that before, where something was supposed to be in the first one and it's not there, but then they bring it into the expansion as sort of an extra incentive to buy the expansion. So maybe they'll do that. I'm not optimistic though, but it does. I'm still 100% interested in playing through Cyberpunk 2077, but it sounds like I've already tapered my expectations. I've been trying to stay in the dark about it, so I don't know much aside from a few screenshots, and I've seen some glitch videos. Those are funny. I think I'm gonna have a good time because, like, I want to see every inch of that place. Yeah, my plan for when I eventually do play it is to play through the game normally, maybe do maybe I'll do it once as like the Street Kid, and then do another one more Machiavellian style as the corporate guy. And then after that, I'll probably want to fire up a mod or something for VorpX and then just walk around through that in VR. So that's my plan for it. But it does sound like they overhyped it. And I made a list of ones that are going to probably bug people that are overhyped that I could think of. Okay, I say this as a PC gamer. Halo, I thought was overhyped when I finally did play it. It sounds like for gaming on the console for a first-person shooter, it was not overhyped because they did a lot of innovative stuff for gamepad controls and for first-person shooters. But as for the game itself, I mean, I thought it was all right, but I mean, I felt like I'd seen kind of more imaginative stuff already from games like Unreal and Unreal Tournament. And like you had the vehicles and stuff like Star Siege Tribes and actually even mods for other games. But so it's like I kind of seen all this stuff already that in some ways I felt like it was a little more uneven in other stuff, and whereas Halo had kind of maintained a baseline quality standard. So it was all right, but it didn't wow me the way it did with other people. But I've only played the first one, so it could be the sequels more than earned all the praise, and I'm just still need to play it. So, somebody in the chat is saying PC is greater than all, no surprises there. No, there's some console games that have just look. I think I've said before, console like for 2D platformers, consoles ran circles around PC games. I mean, you look at all the best platformer games from the past, they're almost all on consoles, like Genesis or Super Nintendo or Symphony of the Night that was on PlayStation, you know. So no, it varies, but I do like the flexibility of PC. But okay, yeah, some other overhyped ones. Okay, at all of these, I'm probably gonna upset people. All of these have the feeling where, okay, I'll just go. I would say the Mass Effect series is kind of overhyped for me. Dragon Age, from the ones I played the first one, and I played a little bit of Inquisition. I haven't played 2. Far Cry series, except for the first one. The first one I like. I like the flow of it. All the others, I haven't played 2 because the tinting kind of threw me off, and then having the concept of having malaria constantly didn't sound fun. It's not that these are bad games, it's just that they don't quite do it for me. The Assassin's Creed series is another one I think is kind of overhyped. Although, well, this extends to a lot of these games, but especially Assassin's Creed. I 100% respect the technology and production budget going into these, because that's just, there's nothing like that, especially for historical games. I mean, they really try to make these areas feel like living, breathing cities. But, you know, if you look at the story and you look at the gameplay, it's just kind of like, I don't know, it doesn't. And this one might upset a bunch of people. The Elder Scrolls games that I've played Morrowind, Oblivion, and Skyrim. Once again, I have full respect for the technical aspects going into that, because these games are enormous, and they put so much stuff into them. But the thing about all those games I mentioned on my list, except Halo, actually, Halo didn't give me this feeling, is they all start to feel like kind of hollow to me. Like it's like my brain is telling me I should be enjoying this much more than I am. And this is very impressive, all the stuff they're doing, you know, with the writing and gameplay aspects and atmosphere, but it's just not, something in it's just not clicking for me. And that's kind of how I feel about all those. Mass Effect, Dragon Age, Far Cry, Assassin's Creed series. Well, Far Cry, except for the first. The first one did not give me that hollow feeling. But that's the most different from all the others. And Although I haven't played 6 though for Far Cry and uh and Elder Scrolls. It's like they're very impressive, but it just feels hollow to me somehow, and I don't know why even. It's certainly not from a lack of effort. But again, Halo did not give me the hollow feeling. Halo just felt like, yeah, it's pretty good. You know, we had a finale and it kind of flowed, and yeah, I don't know. It's it's probably some deep subconscious thing that I can't explain why, but like I'm not those everything in those series. I'm not like dying to try out the new ones when they come out. Usually, I kind of taper my expectations to look at those more like I'm gonna need to find my own fun in this game, and I'm really gonna have to think about it in some cases. Yeah, like for the Assassin's Creed stuff, I'm sitting here saying it's overhyped. I would actually maybe all of these games. I would love to go back and play through them and just kind of take a tour in VR mode, you know, with Vortex or something like that, and just kind of walk around these cities and see them, or the Skyrim VR already has a native port. I've played a little bit of that, and I don't really intend to play the game, but I do want to tour Skyrim in that. So, but somebody's saying, "How about Final Fantasy VII?" I haven't played through Final Fantasy VII. I guess I should. I should go through it sometime. Uh, yeah, it's so I don't know. Some of those, a lot of a lot of big budget games can give me kind of a hollow feeling. And really, I've said how I like Watch Dogs. That wasn't the story. The story isn't the reason I like Watch Dogs. It was just like if you said you feel that way about Watch Dogs, I could totally understand why. It's just I really enjoyed kind of traveling around Chicago in Watch Dogs, is what it is. And then these other things were just sort of excuses for me to keep exploring Chicago, and that's kind of it. So yeah, Watch Dogs had some interesting elements to it, though. Well, all these games I mentioned do, but it's just I guess the difference between what I'm talking about is if you play a game you really like, but once you finish it and you end of it, you're just like, wow, that was an experience. And these games, it's more like it starts. They feel a lot of fun at first, but then it starts blurring to me as to whether I'm having fun or if this is kind of a chore. And that's not the feeling I want from games. So, yeah. Let's see. Okay, so I should get to some more games. I mean, more questions. Let's see. What is something that is often viewed as insane or crazy but is completely sane to you? Chat, feel free to post suggestions while I try to think of stuff. I mean, I guess I tend to have more of the opposite problem where something is seen as sane that I think is insane. But, oh, I mean, this is a more controversial answer, but I guess, well, I mean, I mentioned it before that yeah, this is probably viewed as crazy to a lot of people, that I think we're way overextended with resources and we need to, with our resource use, and we need to vastly decrease our population and resource use, or else billions are going to be dead in the future. I mean, I'm not sure exactly the time scale. I mean, if you say that to people, that comes across as crazy. But let's see, what's another one? There's some of the time. Oh yeah, the MIT prediction that basically civilization is going to collapse by 2040. That sounds like it could be accurate. I don't really like thinking about that, but that doesn't sound crazy to me. Whereas if you just said something, civilization is going to collapse in 2040, a lot of people would think that's crazy. Let's see. I'm looking at the chat. Some people are. Some of these don't sound that crazy. Somebody's saying giving up meat. Well, that's another valid reasons for that. I mean, someone's saying a bid for the competition of annihilation of copyright law. Yeah, I could. That sounds. That's one of those where that doesn't sound crazy to me and sounds sane. However, you can't. It's a metaphor I'm looking for. I don't know what it is. That's not a one thing. That's not a one. You do it, then you're done thing. That's like multiple moving parts thing. It's like, okay, if you eliminate copyright, then you got to do all these other things too. That's how I view eliminate copyright law. But I forget what solipsism is. Is that when you think that it all might be made up in your head, and everybody's no? I don't buy that. Pain's real enough for me. So he's talking about a type of pancake. Pancakes are great. Let's see. Yeah, that's not crazy at all. So he's saying eugenics. Well, of course, obviously, like the more like stuff related to race, yeah, that is crazy. Maybe if we had a really, really good understanding of genetics, that might not be insane, but that would be like, because then you could have stuff where you could almost like eliminate blindness or things like that. Disorders that kind of hinder people's lives or like really severe illnesses. So that's not too crazy to me. Somebody's saying socialism. It's, I don't know, I forget if I mentioned this in other chats. I can see all kinds of different government systems working under the right conditions. It's more about like, what are you, but it comes back to the problem, or I feel like all of them, socialism, democracy, democracy, republics, monarchy, whatever, they all get corrupted. And I don't have an easy answer to that. So, but yeah, again, my views are sort of utilitarian, where I want, what amounts in maximum number of people, preferably everyone, meeting their basic needs, and not having a tortured existence and doing it sustainably. So that can happen. That can happen under a king if you want it, in theory. So it can. I care more about the end. I care more about the end results. So, you can get there many different ways, but if everything gets corrupted, then you never get there. So, okay. Oops, I lost the spot. So he's saying we need to scale back production, not consumption, while providing basic income. I think you'd have to look at the numbers. I'm not against basic income. My main issue with it is I don't see how it would all just end up going to rent, essentially. I think over time, rent especially, cost of living in general, but rent especially, would just raise to match it, in which case it just turned into a treadmill and you didn't change anything in the long term. So it's saying, we have abolishing borders. That's another one, like the abolishing copyright, where I could see that, but you need to solve a lot of other things at the same time, or first, before you do that. So that's if you were to just do that with no changes whatsoever, that would be pretty chaotic, I think. But okay, so I'm saying deleting Twitter. I'm not married to Twitter. I can take it or leave it. Separating people into different ideologies for different area states would be preferable. Trying to force people to get along at such divisive times. Well, there's a fundamental problem with that. What about their kids? Like, you know, it's like, okay, so fine. Like let's say for sake of argument, you have everybody who follows a certain ideology. They're all on the same page. Well, the next generation might not be at all. And that's going to create a rift pretty rapidly. So it's not really, that undoes itself pretty rapidly, I think. Yeah, unless the alternative, yeah. See, that's the thing. You could raise the, yeah. Even then, you could have kind of a monoculture, like so. Say like all the parents are raising the kids to follow that. There's always going to be a few rebels for that, but the only way I think that works is if they see the other side. They see what the other ideas and cultures and everything are, and then they come to that conclusion themselves, like, oh yeah, ours is better. Like I've heard with a lot of people with certain tribes that would be considered like more primitive, but they're more like they might be like in sections of like the Amazon or Africa where they're kind of still living the way people might have been living thousands of years ago. They've had experiments where they bring them, well, they'll take them a tour of like the modern world, like take them to the city and see things. And apparently the anthropologists have looked at that. They'd be worried that they'd want to come back and like leave their tribe and leave behind their, and apparently there's no risk of that. They see what the modern world is like, and they, in general, they're like, nope, not this. Geez, there was an analogy I heard, not analogy, but there was a line I heard somewhere where one of the tribal people were asking, you know, they brought him to the city to give him a tour, and they asked, and he said like he had to go to work, and it's like, oh, well, what for? And they're saying, well, it's so I can earn money to pay for my house, and you know, pay for things. It's like, oh, well, you know, because in their society, you know, if somebody needed a house, then the village might get together and construct one, and you know, in a few days or a week or something, and then they have their house. It's saying, oh, well, you owe money for somebody who built it, right? Right? Oh, well, how long do you need to work to pay it off? It's like, oh, about 30 years. and the tribal person's just kind of like, what? Like, so yeah, that's the only way that the sort of monoculture mostly works, is if the alternative is so undesirable to what they've grown up with. But yeah, okay, so I got a little off track there. Okay. Uh-oh, more pancake talk. Let's see. You might like the book Less is More. Argues a bit for reducing consumption in the reverse of programmed obsolescence, etc. Yeah, well, it's... See, the thing is, there's all kinds of good ideas, and then there's powerful people who do not want these ideas implemented whatsoever, is the general dynamic I tend to see. So, I'm not really a minimalist kind of person. I mean, I don't think I'm really into excess either, but I mean, I like technology and things I can do with it, but I don't really like consumption, and I like it all to count. You know, if I have, I don't really have any value in having stuff I'm not going to use. You know, but I'm talking about like scaling down with resource use, because I think we're potentially facing huge problems in the future. So I see that as highly more desirable than lots of people dying in the future from lack of resources. So, okay, I'm looking at more of the potentially crazy stuff. Crazy opinion, abolish rent. Well, that's another one where you have to have other things in place for that. Yeah, I mean, how would it work then? I mean, I guess the government could assign areas or, yeah, or see, but that could also backfire. It's like, okay, fine, you abolish rent. That means only people who own their homes get to keep them. That would lead to that would lead to a whole lot of homeless if you just implemented that immediately. I don't own my home, so I think the majority of people don't now. I have to check. I mean, like even in the U.S. So I'm saying no taxes. It's pretty simple, but people think it's insane. Again, I can see multiple It's all about the end results, you know, because taxes, they're kind of more neutral in themselves. It's like what they're used on is what makes a difference, or how they're implemented too. You know, if somebody's living hand to mouth, they don't need more taxes. Whereas, let's say the taxation's perfect. You know, only people who can afford them, or it's all reasonable amount, and then most of the taxes are going towards making bombs that we don't need. So, okay, let's see. I'm just looking through more of the comments. Oh, shoot, skipped. Yeah, but people wrote a lot. Okay, people are talking with each other now and having a conversation. That's fine, by the way. It's no problem if you want to hijack the chat a little bit to have it because of something that was brought up. It's just that I may not be able to keep up with it. Yeah, well, see, there's so many solutions and so many ways to getting towards desirable goals if you can not have things corrupt. Like, if you don't have people actively sabotaging the good thing you're trying to do, then that makes all the difference, I feel like. And there's many paths, is the way I see it. But if you don't have that, then that's the question, you know? Okay, let's see. I worry we're in danger of getting stun locked, going on to the next quarter or next queue. I'm not sure what that's in reference to. I mean, stun locked. I'm familiar with the metaphor, but I'm not sure what it pertains to. I mean, yeah, I mostly think of that in games or something like wrestling or, you know. Is it crazy to want to digitize? Oh yeah, okay, yeah, that's another inverse example or something I think is crazy, but it just seems as normal. Is it crazy to want to digitize civilization? Well, one, I'm not exactly sure what they mean by that, but let's just, computers implemented everywhere. There's many things that make sense as possible. No, however, I think it is crazy to do this with no plan for something like a Carrington event, where a giant solar flare basically knocks out 99% of electronics on Earth and fries them. To me, that seems like an incredible vulnerability. And knowing that, I think based on records, this tends to happen on average every 100 years. So we might be really at the absolute peak of civilization, because let's fingers crossed it doesn't happen on our watch. And let's say that would cause like another dark ages and just a lot of death if just all electronics got knocked out and fried. Except for stuff that was like deep inside a cavern or like special military gear that was like hardened again to protect against that, the EMP or things like that. Yeah, that seems crazy to me that we're doing that. Like, not that we have all this technology, but that there's just no backup plan if it all just goes down. They're saying something about copyright law. Yeah, well, again, I think I mentioned one of the previous video chats with copyright. The way I feel about like abolishing copyright or reforming it, that sort of thing, it's like talking about how, maybe we don't need the monarchy in the Middle Ages. It's like, yeah, that maybe we don't, and we can work without it. But king's still gonna cut your head off if you don't if you don't provide this amount for the harvest or so. It's like, yeah, I'm not against the idea. It's just the implement. I don't see how you circumvent the. I don't see how you overpower the most powerful forces that want to maintain copyright exactly as it is or expand it. That's the part I hung up on. So. Okay, I guess I'll move on to more of the. Is it crazy to want absolute democratization in most everything? I think that one might not be possible unless that would take some real outside the box thinking. Because if you're talking about absolute, can't even say the word democratization, most everything. I mean, typically you have on almost every society. Well, I mean, that has we think of as democracy. It's representative democracy. So you elect the mayor or council member or chairman or something, and then they make decisions like, okay, well, how should we allocate the budget so that we fill potholes, or some of this goes to the schools, or there's like a million decisions that have to be made on a small scale, and no one has. There's so many decisions that need to be made. No one, like on average, has that kind of time to make all those decisions. So you would have to scale down society to just the smallest level. But again, I don't think it would stay that way because we tend to appreciate benefits of larger scale civilizations. Like having things like electricity or plumbing. I mean, I guess some of these you can have at a small. Well, industrialization of certain things. I was going to say some of these you can now do on a small scale, but those rely on processes that only happen through large manufacturing or societies. Like again, electricity. Yeah, you probably could handle that on a small scale, but like what is everybody? Every town and county doesn't have a shop where they can manufacture transistors and integrated circuits to like regulate things, or just even smelting the metal. Yeah, mining, refining and processing the metal that just goes into just basic things, or plastics, or that sort of thing. So it's and then as you get to larger scale, there are many benefits to larger organization, and as you get to that, then you get away from having the democratization of everything be possible. So it's it's complicated. Okay, I'll get to more questions. The chat helped a lot with that one for coming up with more insane or ideas viewed as insane or crazy, but sounds sane. Oh yeah, we know you're a big supporter of dwarves, but what other fantasy races are you biased in favor of? Well, I was actually thinking of some of the more kind of normally kind of evil races. I'm a fan of like the ones that just their MO is to just wreck everything. So stuff like orcs, goblins, imps, ogres. Those are all like those can all have a solid presence in fantasy games because it's just kind of a force of chaos. And then for more evil races, I like vampires if they're done right, or demons also. Although I think with both of those, with demons and vampires, I like those to not be taken lightly. Like I feel like demons should be like pretty close to your ultimate threat. Like as in, like you're not really gonna top them because like they're maybe stronger than everything and they can kind of have a corrupting presence or just they're otherworldly, so it's kind of creepy like that. So and then with vampires, you don't want the only difference of the vampire being that it's the same as a regular person, but they have fangs and drink blood and maybe can't handle sunlight. But that's kind of lame. Vampires are much more interesting when they have like different powers and abilities to them. I was thinking about it though, like with fantasy races, the I can appreciate a lot of. I think the ones I appreciate the most, because you can make up ones, uh, are ones that really have their own agenda, and they're just not going to stop. Because and it's hard to say what that can vary, but like with dwarves, are dwarves really going to stop mining or in the mountain, or that tends to be the stereotype for dwarves, or they're gonna stop tinkering with things. So I like I like the races that have like a real agenda and they're just gonna keep at it no matter what, even if that causes big problems. So people who are more versed in fantasy can maybe think of some examples like that, because then it's like they're really leaving their mark, and then it's gonna seeing that dynamic in play can be fun. I'm trying to think of some other examples. Yeah, or dwarves are dwarves are also known for just constantly building. Big building projects. Like I think there was a computer game. Chad will probably know the name of it. I forget. Recently, where it's like a city simulator, except it's all beavers, and you're designing like this giant wood-based city structure with all the beavers. And so if it was something like that, it's like, yeah, I could see getting into that, because the beavers are not going to stop making dams, and they're not going to stop, cutting down the forest and building their wood projects. So, yeah, I could see liking that. So, yeah, I like really I like fantasy races that are really motivated and have an agenda. So, okay. Okay, yeah, there's another conversation going on. All right, so let's see. It's still some months off, but do you have anything planned for the 10th anniversary of Ross's Game Dungeon? No, I didn't even realize it was coming up. Again, it always feels like you're perpetually behind. And anniversaries just remind me of how much I wanted to accomplish. So probably not, but I am gonna be months off. I hope to be working on the movie. So, or no, I will be. It just depends on how fast the countdown goes. That'll be something to celebrate. Okay. You have detoured Freeman's route a few times in the series so far. My question is, were there any routes you thought were too ambitious to see the light of day, or weren't the way you wanted to take the series? Not really. I mean, I'm kind of saving my more ambitious ideas again for sort of, well, in the past, stuff like Civil Protection, in this case, like the movie, or just other kind of standalone things where I don't have to follow what's been laid out for me by the game. Uh, I mean, I guess they sort of this sort of shoehorn Alex, Half-Life 2, which especially in episode 1, and some extent 2. I mean, I might have had less of that, but I haven't even gotten to that in Freeman's Mind yet. But yeah, nothing that like immediately jumps out at me. I guess one thing, it wouldn't really affect the videos that much, but my main criticism that I remember of Half-Life 2 is I thought Breen was this great kind of nuanced villain where most of the time he's a turncoat, he's a collaborator and this serving to sell out the humanity. However, you kind of get the vibe that he maybe kind of believes what he's preaching, that he thinks this is the best way. And even though it's kind of dooming everyone, he may be kind of blind to that aspect of it. And I thought that was like really interesting as a villain. And like, yeah, that's not your typical villain. And so I found that interesting. And then at the very end, he just goes all, blah, ha, ha, I'm going to disintegrate you and you won't. Like, it's like, okay, well, yeah, now you turn into sort of a cartoon villain. And it's not that I have a problem with cartoon villains. It's just that throughout most of the game, you had a much, like, kind of smarter character that was, like, raised more interesting questions and thoughts about it. And then at the end, it's just blah, ha, ha. So, okay. So I found that kind of disappointing in the original Half-Life 2. That they should have just kept his... It would have been better to have seen Breen just stay as a true believer in what he's doing. And I feel like that would have been more interesting. That was one of the criticisms I remember of Half-Life. Oh, okay, well, yeah, I guess you saw that in the last Freeman's Mind. I remember wanting to be able to use the gravity gun on the bodies. And they sort of give you a consolation prize of that at the very end. But, I mean, it seemed like I guess they decided that would have been too overpowered or something like that. But I still wanted it, So, let's see. And I'll answer this one. It got marked down, but they're saying that somebody was saying that they want to know why there have been such massive delays in Freeman's Mind 2 in general. It's with everything is what's happening. Because, like, okay, this side video I want to make, get out as soon as I can. It'll probably be January, though. I've been trying to carve out time for that one. I want to say maybe 3 years now. So it's just, it feels like everything is perpetually behind. And with the latest Freeman's Mind, what happened was I got a few minutes into it and then I was drawing kind of a blank as to what to say. I mean, now I can I can think of something to say, but if it's just kind of so and isn't really that good, I'd rather give you no episode than a bad episode. And so I was just kind of waiting for my inspiration to return on that. And unfortunately, when I'm working a lot of other stuff, that can kind of put it in a back seat. And the other thing, this isn't having a huge influence yet, but now Game Dungeon gets more views than Freeman's Mind. So, it hasn't gone to plan at all. But I'm trying. I know I'm disappointing everyone, but at least if I make the movie, I won't be disappointing myself. That's how I feel about it. So, let's see. Is there anything the community can do to help you reduce your work stress? outside of volunteering to help on projects. Geez. See, I tried, that was kind of an experiment that blew up on me with trying to get video editing help that ended up costing me time, unfortunately, but it was kind of a gamble. Although I am getting help now with Grim Cookie. He's been helping the volume balance the episodes. That is absolutely saving me time, and it's helping morale because I hate volume balancing. He's doing like 99% of the dialogue volume balancing now on or 95 to 99%, somewhere around there on the latest videos. So that's been a huge, yeah, he's in the chat. So he's Master Cookie in the chat. He said to call him Grim Cookie in the video chat, I mean, on the game, because that was his Grim Dawn character. So sure. He may change it to another cookie form later. Who knows? We'll see. I guess the only thing I can say is I appreciate if people come back after my absence while working on the movie. So if I'm not just, because I've heard a million people say, oh, you can't let up the pace on YouTube or else you'll never get your fans back and you're doomed. And maybe there's some truth to that, though I feel like I've shed a lot of those people already. So yeah, I mean, I wasn't kidding in that I have to make the movie, even if it's gonna hurt me economically and maybe permanently lower my fan base. But so yeah, just even if you come back like a year or two later, it's like, oh yeah, is Ross still? That's fine. That's fine. You know, the videos aren't going anywhere. Or if they do, I'll put them back up somewhere else. So, yeah, so yeah, I just, it's something I've been trying to brainstorm myself. And it's not just making the videos. I don't want to get too much into this, but I actually do a lot that you don't see to kind of help my wife, who has, her anxiety issues can kind of leave her sort of kind of frozen on a lot of things that she'll need like extra help with. So I figure I figure I'm a little bit of the less dysfunctional one between the two of us, even though I think we're both kind of dysfunctional. So I try to pick up the slack on that. So I'm doing a lot throughout the day, every day, pretty much. Okay, I just should move on. Let's see. Artemis successfully launched and completed its mission to orbit the moon. Do you think the current program is going to succeed, or will it crash and burn like Constellation? Do you think we'll make it to Mars in our lifetime? I have no idea. I haven't really been following it. I mean, I feel like we could make it to Mars, but I also think that's a reckless priority. I mean, based on my understanding, we're in the sixth great extinction period right now. And I meant to fact check this before I got on the chat, but I think there's been 5 other like great extinction events where it just wiped out like 90% of species or more throughout history. But I think the one we're in apparently is happening at a rate 20 times faster than any of the others. So it's like, even though 90% of the species got wiped out, it took like thousands of years for that to happen. You know, so to be, I can think of almost no practical value of having a manned expedition to Mars, whereas that takes a lot of resources, and it's kind of distracting us from like problems we really should be solving at home. Again, like food sustainability, or just resource use, or just collapsing the ecosystem, that sort of thing. So, whereas we still get a lot of benefits from launching a probe to Mars. You know, we can still do a whole lot of research with a probe, and that's so much. I mean, that's still a lot of resources, but then there's more of an argument to make for, scientific discovery with that. Yeah, and somebody's saying it's not just about getting to Mars. How would people live there? Yeah, it would be it would have such an incredibly tenuous lifeline to have enough supplies to do that. And if everything went fine, if nothing went wrong, which is unrealistic, then yeah, you could have people staying there for a while. But even then, that would take an incredible amount of resources if you wanted that to actually be self-sustaining. That would be like the biggest engineering collective project maybe humanity has ever undertaken. And if we're going to be doing that, I'd rather us, not turn things into Soylent Green, if given the choice. I think the people who think like, oh, well, this is not putting all our eggs in one basket. Well, then we have Mars instead of just Earth in case we ruin Earth. They're either they don't understand even a fraction of what's the details that are involved, the logistic details involved with that, or they're just delusional, or it's a fantasy. It's a great concept for stuff like science fiction, but I mean, yeah, or that was another thing. It's like, oh, we have to worry about billionaires going off into space because while the Earth gets ruined. It's like, no, you don't. Anybody going into space is heavily dependent on Earth and society and civilization. If people are saying that, they just don't understand what's involved with going out into space. It's just, space wants to kill you. And it's that there's so much, there's, yeah, somebody's saying no atmosphere, no radiation protection, massive temperature fluctuations. Other than that, it's still awful. I mean, space is really cool symbolically. I get that. And there's a lot of discoveries we can make from space. Like, I'm all for better observation, like, getting better telescopes out there, or that sort of thing. Or, yeah, I mean, being able to spot an extinction level asteroid is one of the most practical things we could possibly do. I mean, it's the odds of us worrying about that are incredibly low, but if they get through, then that's the most important thing on Earth. So, yeah, so I'm not against space exploration in quotes, I guess. Space research. I'm all for that because what we can learn from that seems to far outweigh like the resources expended. But just for putting people on planets and or the moon, it just I haven't heard the scenario where this makes sense in light of everything else that's going on Earth. Because you might be able to argue, it's like, oh, well, maybe we can do mining of asteroids or something. It's like, well, maybe, but it's like, is that a better use of our resources if, like, it's becoming too hot to produce like crops around the equator or something, or the ocean, we're killing off fish at a rate that's going to catch up with us in a couple decades, or or killing the ocean. So it's, yeah, I like lots of science fiction, but I also realize most of it is fiction. It's, and I think some people maybe don't see the distinction as well, or not that things in science fiction haven't come to be real, but it's, there's a lot going on with the Earth right now. And I wish it was kind of covered better. Yeah, somebody says space wants to kill you and it's good at killing you. Yeah? Yeah, I mean, I'm not even sure this is a great idea either, but I want to say it'd probably be 10 times easier to colonize like the Gobi Desert or the Sahara Desert or Antarctica than it would be and any extraterrestrial extraterrestrial body. It's or space station or something. So I mean, there's still you would have a lot of challenges, but you would have air, you would have you would have an atmosphere, you would have an easier way to get new supplies, that sort of thing. But okay, well, let's move on. Oh yeah, this is a good one. I only had a few answers, but there's probably better ones. What level or map in a game is your favorite visually? I didn't. Well, I had a few for 2D games and then a couple for 3D, but I'm sure the chat, yeah, chat, feel free to weigh in. So some of these I don't really even have the specific level, just the game. For 2D, I had Donkey Kong Country has just wonderful looking levels for 2D, like the jungle or the underwater area, some of the mines. And what was, geez, did I forget the other one I had for 2D? I might have. I want to say it was another Super Nintendo game. Oh yeah, Castlevania 4. I love the environments in that. Like the beginning level is really good. I like the forest area, but I kind of like it all together, with the level. For 3D, again, I don't have a specific level, but Destiny 2 has visually wonderful levels. Like that is, I love what I saw in that game. I mean, I thought the gameplay itself was just sort of so-so for my taste, but I would, that's another sort of, I don't know if I'll be able to obtain it, but I hope I can. I would love to be able to walk around in the maps to Destiny 2 in VR. And that has like anti-cheat stuff. So the only way you could get it would be to kind of rip the maps out of it or have a server emulator. And those are tall orders. So I don't know. But yeah, I would love that, to just have a Destiny 2 tour of, because it's, you could pick a place at random because they have like, so many of the maps look gorgeous in that game. Oh yeah, also Subnautica had really nice areas too. Again, it's hard for me to pick a favorite. I kind of like the region that had these kind of glowing blue orb things. I kind of like the big cave you were entering, and then I don't even know what to call it, but the opposite end of the map, I guess, with another cavern system with with luminescent coral or other alien plants. So I was saying Destiny 1 looked nicer to them. I watched a playthrough of Destiny 1. I don't remember as scenic areas as Destiny 2. Yeah, I don't remember the names of any of these for Subnautica. But yeah, Subnautica has gorgeous areas. Oh yeah, another 3D one. I haven't even played it yet. I played the predecessor and I've seen screenshots and some gameplay, but just looking at the screenshots, was it The Hunter Call of the Wild? I think is the full name of it. Gorgeous looking forest from that and countryside, and that's 100% a game I want to check out in VR, and I should be able to with VorpX. Let's see. Okay, somebody's saying Battlefront 2 has great looking space battles. Actually, one of them I want to check out is, I think it was the reboot of Battlefront. That it takes place in the sort of redwood forest where the Ewoks are. That would be pretty cool level to see. Oh, okay. Somebody's saying, what's your favorite biome in Dungeon Siege? Which would you like to live in if there weren't monsters? That's a good one. In the original game, the whole beginning area is really nice in Dungeon Siege. And I kind of like, much later, you get into sort of a more kind of evergreen. Well, yeah, there's two of them. There's one area where there's a bunch of evergreen forest by the swamps, but there's like a nicer one, I think, once you get outside of these crypts that's sort of in the middle of the forest. I like that area a lot. trying to think of some others, but yeah, I guess one of those. Yeah, maybe the beginning area or that kind of middle area that's around some crypt. That's kind of a break in the forest, but it's real nice looking. Let's see. Some of the Wipeout tracks have very nice futuristic back. That's one I need to catch up on. Do you have a fantasy or sci-fi setting you really admire but only know surface level info about? I guess I know a little bit more than surface level now, but the Warhammer stuff always kind of intrigued me. It always had a feeling like there was a lot behind it. I'd say that's really true for the 40K stuff. Let's see. Yeah, there's other stuff like I kind of want to see the world of. I mentioned it before. Oh, geez, I forgot the name of it. It was a game put out by EA, and it wasn't very good, I think people were saying. It involved like jetpacks and gliding around, lots of waterfalls and canyons and stuff. I don't know. I barely know anything about that. I'm interested in trying it out. It's probably not that great a game, but it'll probably be a great game to just sort of take a tour through the world of. Anthem, yeah, thanks, chat. Yeah, that's. I've played through Destiny 2, though I did that a couple years ago. So since they're swapping maps in and out, there might be a different experience of what there is now. And I'm still not sure I understand much at all with what was going on. And I wasn't too wowed by the plot, but yeah, it's fair to say I only have a surface level understanding of Destiny 2. Despite having played through the single player campaign. It's gorgeous. So he's saying Destiny 2 is worse now. It could be. Yeah. That's something where I'd probably align with like the hardcore Destiny fans, is that we probably, all of us, want to have all these levels of maps preserved and don't like how they just pluck out some of them, you know? Let's see. So I'm saying Metro Exodus has very good looking levels. Well, Metro Exodus, from the screenshots I've seen, they have very impressive visual fidelity, but it looks like a lot of ruins to me from what I've seen. You know, so it's like, well, I'm only modern ruins, you know. I'm only into that so much, so that doesn't. So thematically, it didn't quite grab me as much, but yeah, obviously the graphics are very impressive. Let's see. Oh, and for visually impressive, the sort of a runner-up for 2D is the game Kingdom, where it's really just one level. It's like a side-scrolling sort of strategy management game, but very atmospheric, especially as it goes through different seasons and times of the day and that sort of thing. Yeah, again, not really a level so much, but I really like the visuals in, was it Forza Horizon 4? Very good job on the lighting in that game. I mean, I like the setting more too, the northern. I think it takes place in Scotland. Let's see. So asking to be a Game Dungeon on Jedi Outcast or Jedi Academy. I have played those. Maybe, I don't know. I'm not really burning to do a Game Dungeon. Although I was thinking of when I was looking into monitors, I remembered how in Jedi Academy at one point you have to choose between having more stances, having a lightsaber staff, or having dual lightsabers. And that's kind of how monitors felt, because it's like, oh, okay, well, do you want one with better specs? Do you want one ultra wide, or do you want one, or the triple monitor or something? It was making me think of that. Okay, so I'll go with some more questions. talk in a while. I was talking to a YouTuber recently who expressed a desire to eventually get out of the YouTube thing, stating that when you have a day job, your your job is done once you get home, but being an online influencer, you're never truly off work. How true does this ring to you, and does it ever affect your knowing that you're never truly off work, or does it affect you? Uh, well, first, I think it's kind of funny that they're an influencer because I'm thinking like the people who are good at being influencers might be on the opposite end of the spectrum personality wise than what I am because they're there about like hyping up products and or a lifestyle or something, and that's really I just want to make like a good video experience, like a well that's why I want to get eventually towards the movie. I see most of what the other stuff I do is just kind of a compromise, so I thought that was yeah, there definitely is truth to that. However, I've had a lot of hell jobs too. So, like, even though it's like you have to kind of pick the least worst option, where, I mean, yeah, I do I certainly work more hours than I would at like a 40-hour job. But if it's like one I hated, I'm also not lying in bed just going, oh my God. Like when you get up in the morning thinking of going back to it. And I mean, I think, I think there's only like a couple jobs I had that like were genuinely fine. It's like, I wasn't ecstatic about it, but it wasn't just a complete dread going into work. So I might have more free time that way, but I mean, knowing I can kind of wake up when I want to, that's pretty huge. And, and I can kind of prioritize what makes sense. That's very helpful too. And I'm working on something I enjoy more most of the time, especially with the volume balancing help. Jeez, I don't miss that. But it could be a bit of. I think it depends on what you're doing too, because like let's say I was back to working a regular kind of 40-hour job, I'd still want to make the movie. So that part hasn't changed. It's just I'm doing stuff that's more related, much more related to what I'd rather be doing. And because again, like some jobs, it's like you just have no downtime, and and the commute, and yeah, that's the other thing. I may have worked less hours, but I can have more breaks. So I can have a 20-minute break when I want to, or I can stop in the middle of the day to go exercise, or that sort of thing, and that makes a big difference. Yeah. I think I mentioned commutes too. Look, that reminds me of another topic I've talked to about where I lost track of the conversation. Looks like it might be about Destiny still. Like it's almost comical how many articles I've just sort of stumbled across by accident talking about how, well, we really should crack down on this work from home stuff and remote work and really try to get people back into the office. And I mean, first off, there's the obvious that some jobs you can't do remotely. You have to be there. Like I'm thinking although even then you could probably expand that. I was about to say a baker as an example, but I'm thinking you could almost have the baker, if they had the equipment at their home, just bake from home and then have it get delivered to the store or something. So, in fact, that is how more commercial bakeries work. Well, not from home, but let's say auto mechanic, although you could run that out of your house, but no, let's say it's not practical or you need too much equipment. Yeah, let's say auto mechanic. Like, you got to go in to work on the car. You can't just get onto a computer for that. So that's understandable. And that probably wasn't affected. Well, no, that probably wiped out some of those businesses. Yeah, the pandemic probably wiped out a lot of those businesses. But as demand comes back, those aren't really being affected by remote work. But there's other jobs where let's say like programming or accounting or something like you could totally do that remotely. And if you're a manager, like well, if I was a manager, I guess I am lightly with the getting help on the videos, like for volume balancing. I don't care what the person's doing, what hours they're running. All I care is about like the end result. Like, okay, well, we need this done. If you're meeting about what we expect for a normal employee from home, why does it matter? I mean, for whether you come in or not. However, it seems, well, there's two things going on. Well, there's more than that going on, but there's two big things. One, I feel like, one of them for the managers, it might be a bit of an existential crisis for them, because if the work's still getting done and nobody's coming into the office, then maybe they don't need as many managers. So the middle management has to convince the upper management that no, we need people to come back in because their job might be at stake because they're not needed as much. But the other thing, especially when like really wealthy people are like wanting people to come back in to the office when it's not needed, I think it must be like a psychological thing where, they want to see the people working at their company so they can feel like they're in charge, or maybe even on a more basic level, they think things aren't getting done unless they see the people working around the building or something like that. And then in which case, because again, like if I was like a businessman, all I would care about is like, okay, well, is the work getting done? If the answer is yes, then great, do it any way you want. Or if productivity really is falling, you may not even need to. Still might need to axe remote work then, because you could just say like, hey, your productivity is falling. We're gonna have, try to get this back up. We may have to lay you off in the long term if you can't hit the old numbers you used to be able to hit. That sort of thing. And granted, and don't confuse this with me thinking that like everybody needs to be working as hard as possible. I'm just trying to like put myself in their shoes. But if it's a psychological need, then no, they're never going to be satisfied unless they see you behind a desk looking like you're working. So I 100% understand people wanting to work remotely. I mean, just cutting the commute out, that's more of your time and money that you're claiming back right there. So it's okay. Since I noticed the question, they're saying, do you take suggestions for obscure classic games? Yeah, I have a category in my email like that, so you can email me if you want. You may not get a reply though, but I'll put it into the pile and I'm gonna tally it later. I'm pretty sure I know what the most requested game is, and I'll try and do a game dungeon on that at some point. But yeah, so there is truth to what they're saying, but you kind of have to gauge like in a way you're never really off the clock. However, the way I've sort of come to grips with this is like I want to make enough that I'm kind of financially stable-ish, and I really want to make the movie and potentially other sort of original projects in the future. But let's say just the movie. If I make the movie, well, I say when I make the movie, the if is how I think I'm going to feel about it. Then I'll have satisfied like that part of my self that my brain really wants this to happen. And so I'll kind of be more at peace that if I'm still kind of treading water financially, then it's okay that then like I don't feel like I'm constantly behind as much, or I'll feel like I'm behind, but I'll feel like, well, I did the movie, so it's okay if I'm a little bit behind, because I got that done. That's what mattered to me more. So it's kind of like that. Uh, but yeah, there's plenty of jobs that don't work well from home, but like the ones that do, absolutely. I understand people wanting that, and don't give an inch if you can prevent it. Yeah, and that's the thing. This could be, from a business economic perspective, there's a chance. I mean, I don't know, because powerful people can often get what they want, especially even more so powerful industries. But there's a chance this could be end up being a changing of the guard for economically. Like, how people, I'm thinking in the past, maybe companies in the past didn't think much of computers or think much of internet sales or anything like that. And some of them became dinosaurs. So whereas there are going to be entrepreneurs or businesses that are going to have more, my perspective, if I was in their shoes, to think, yeah, I don't care how you do this. If you can get like this product done by this point, or like this code done by next Friday, do whatever you want. We're not even charging by the hour. Well, no, you have to pay by the hour. You could be salaried. So if you get done early, great. Do whatever. We still got what we wanted. But although most businesses almost always drift towards maximum work out of every employee for minimum cost. So, but I feel like there would be some that if they're outdoing the competition, then that might still be good enough. And especially smaller companies can value things like employee morale. So, yeah, I was thinking that there was a British expression I've heard called "squeeze the pips until they squeak," which the concept, like the pits of an apple, the little seeds. It's like, yeah, you're not just juicing the apple, you're juicing the juice inside those tiny seeds too. Sort of a metaphor for, most efficient things. And that's just that's a good thing to get away from as humans, but that's not really the reality we're in. Okay. Now that's better for machines and designs, that sort of thing. Okay, I got off track again. Have you noticed any examples of other content creators who have clearly been inspired by you, be it style, humor, topics, etc.? Not counting the obvious ones like the Mind spinoffs. I guess I only know of the obvious ones. I haven't been able to keep up with a lot of other YouTube videos. Again, I'm busy. But yeah, that's sure. If you find something good to copy off of mine, it's not a problem, I mean, hopefully a style, it's, if you're really if you're just straight up copying something I've said, then yeah, you can give me reference somewhere. Like, well, I did with the Angry Video Game Nerd. I've like a lot of his videos, and so I had clips of that in the Battle Forge. It's like, well, what's the most important rule to playing a game? What's the most important aspect to any game? Being able to play it, So, but yeah. Also, I'm still gonna get. I'm still gonna get emails about this, and even though it's in the frequently asked questions on the website, guys, you can use my videos for whatever you want that even resembles kind of fair usage. So you're using a clip as a reference to something to make a point or a review, or you remix it, or just you want to take a quote. So you don't even have to ask my permission on that. I mean, that doesn't mean I'm necessarily endorsing your video because maybe I don't care for it, but don't worry about it. You know, so if it's even close to being fair use, it's fine. Yeah, it's uh, yeah. Like the only time I think I went after a YouTuber was when that Russian channel, they were copying my videos and then dubbing over them. So, and they were taking the money on that. But I figured, well, this is a different audience. You know, if they're dubbing it, these aren't the same people. There's not going to be much overlap between people who are watching that. So I was still happier with the videos reaching more people. But then they started laying copyright strikes against me. Not strikes, claims against the original Freeman's Mind videos. So at that point, I got some advice from another YouTuber, I think this is Rerez. It's the guy who gave me advice. He said, like, no, you've got to lay counterclaims then. And so I did that on all their videos, and they took them down pretty fast. Like I said, they were acting like a mad dog because they were copying my videos, profiting off of them, you know, the translation. I was letting that slide. But then they laid copyright claims against the originals. So it's like, nope, okay, I'm drawing the line. I'm going to crack down on that. You know, if somebody's asking, can they mint videos as an NFT to make a bunch of money? No, I'm not giving permission for that, but I totally do not have the incentive to go after that either. So, yeah, I think I said a while back, like any NFT of anything of mine, it's not legitimate as legitimate a thing as NFTs are, but that's so not my wheel. That's so not worth my time, you know? I think the analogy I made is, say you took a screenshot of my website or one of the videos, and then you put that screenshot up for sale. Yeah, I guess you're violating the copyright, but I'm not gonna care. Like, I don't think the market's that real. So yeah, it would tell you what, yeah, here's what I'll say. I'm almost certainly not gonna go after you because that is so not worth my time. However, if you become a friggin' NFT millionaire, I'll be incentivized to go after you unless you make a very generous donation. Okay. If you can pay me off then, like, to avoid it. That'll be my policy. I'm not giving permission for NFTs. I'm probably not gonna enforce it unless you've made yourself such a juicy target that, like, oh wow, I can retire if I sue you or something. So yeah. Okay, let's see, more questions. Ross, do you think there will be a follow-up episode before you go all in on the movie? Yeah, right now, I think that's fourth in line. Like, the next one's going to be the Christmas game dungeon. Then there's the side video, which is taking a lot of time. There's another side video that's closely related to that that'll take much less time. That'll be a lot easier. It'll just be me talking, basically. And then my next one I planned was the follow-up episode for Game Dungeon. And I'll try to cover a bunch of the big ones. Like Life is Strange. There's some other big ones. And I forget. Oh, yeah, the Baldi's strategy. If people wanted to know how I beat that map. I won't get to everything. But that'll be a bigger one. I'll try to that'll be a more normal follow-up episode compared to the third one. However, maybe Freeman's Mind comes before that. But so fourth or fifth in line. Let's see. Yeah, no, I plan to have that be one of the countdown, the big follow-up. So I'm saying they've been doing a rewatch, and they saw a Carnival episode where you mentioned your retirement plans to trap people in a park. I forgot I said that actually. I'm not shocked I forgot something I said in the Carnival episode. My brain really was scrambled when I was making that one. Uh, what sorts of rides and attractions would you have in your theme park of madness? I'm really open-minded on theme parks. I can enjoy all kinds of different ones. I mean, I feel like roller coasters are a pretty big mainstay, but I like stuff like haunted houses, but I also like stuff that are just sort of like the equivalent of like a mini cruise, like a jungle thing. And for some reason, I'm thinking of the Candyland and Wreck-It Ralph. I, I I would enjoy something like that if it wasn't so incredibly tempting for me, because I'm kind of a sweets addict. Uh, yeah, that would be kind of like an alcoholic going to beer land, you know. But I mean, I just part of it's the rides, and part of it's just kind of its own atmosphere. Well, they'll have themes to kind of make it feel like a different place, and I enjoy that sort of thing too. So I don't have anything too specific. I could enjoy all kinds of amusement parks. So let's see what. Oh, do you know about so-called fantasy consoles like the Pico 8 or TIC 80? I did not. I did a quick search on Pico 8, but I didn't have time to look up much. Yeah, I think I got distracted by something else that I had to. Oh no, it's like I think I was getting ready to go out. Is that something where it's sort of like a a new con like a sort of a new console standard, like as though this were a real console, so that when you make games, they're all compatible with that sort of kind of created console standard. Do I have that right? Well, I have to wait for the chat, see what the chat says, but so it would have like this fixed resolution, these amount of colors, this equivalent of a CPU, that speed, that sort of thing. I'm all right with that. I mean, I guess there could be the benefit of that, of having more standards, so that it might help future-proof your game some more. Uh, I mean, as long as like the specs are reasonable. I guess on the Pico 8, I was seeing a lot of screenshots where the colors look sort of muted, like they're kind of washed out a bit. I mean, I don't hate that, but it's not my favorite. I mean, when I think of like old 2D consoles, Super Nintendo and Genesis, that they had colors that like really popped out, and you could have like really great art. Though I can understand where you may not want it might be a lot more work to hit that kind of fidelity standard. But on that front, I kind of like the look of Commodore 64. So yes, I guess if you have a real good palette, if you're really putting a lot of thought into the colors you're using for your palette, then sure. I mean, I like old games. I like new games. It's funny because a lot of like retro games going for a retro style, I want to say the vast majority of them are not authentic to the style of the console, or it's kind of rare you see ones that are really close. Because I'm thinking of like one giveaway that you see a lot. I mean, if that's what you're going for, it's that has no real bearing on my enjoyment of the game. However, you can sometimes get a little more into the atmosphere if it's like just totally authentic with what they're trying to do, or it may not meet any console at the time, but the technology checks out for what you're doing. So if you were developing this game in 1992 or something, or three, then yeah, all the techniques you have seem to check out. But one giveaway that I just always notice is, say if it's a bunch of sprites or pixels and they rotate. Well, you can have rotating pixels, but then the rotation, you see that's at a finer resolution than the actual pixels than the pixel art you're working with, if I'm explaining myself properly. where it so you so like if you were to rotate some pixel art on like the authentic stuff, well, you can do that, but that rotation is going to be pretty blocky because there's going to be big diagonals and everything. However, if they're kind of going for the more fake retro look, what they'll do is they just simply rotate the pixel art. So those are nice, clean diagonal lines. And that's not authentic because the resolution wasn't there for that sort of thing. So yeah, that's one of the things I noticed that's a giveaway that this is, not, that sort of wakes me up. But on the other hand, I do enjoy things like widescreen support, so which isn't particularly authentic for. There might have been one or two that supported that, but not many back in the old days. Yeah, so I was saying Super Mario World is still one of their favorite looking games. It does have a neat aesthetic to it. Super Mario World. I don't know if it's my favorite, but it's generally a welcoming one. Yeah, like I didn't put Mario on the overhyped games because I feel like Mario games, apps, I'm not even that interested in all of them. Some of them more than others, but none of them give me the impression that these are like hollow feeling games. You get the feeling you're getting a real kind of refined experience for what it is, for what they are. So yeah, I guess Mario lives up to its hype. Even though I was never crazy about the 3D platforming style, but the quality was there. Okay. Is there anything we can do to make the video chats easier for you? I guess we could have a hard cutoff on the questions, but sometimes I see occasionally I see unpopular questions that I feel like, oh, these are pretty good questions, or they're being critical in a genuine way, but maybe the fans are kind of dogpiling on them that they shouldn't ask that. But I mean, if you're critical of me, I'll not necessarily my favorite, but I mean, if it's coming as a genuine concern or you kind of was hoping it would be better, that sort of thing, I mean, I'll address it. That's not a problem. But yeah, I guess having a hard cutoff would probably be What's the coldest you've ever been? I have no idea. I guess when I was backpacking and it started snowing, that got pretty cold. Yeah, it was at Mount Rogers. I think it's in North Carolina. That's an interesting. There's a big elevation. Where's Mount Rogers? Yeah. No, it's in Virginia. Okay, it must be close to the border. It's a pretty high elevation climb. They actually have wild horses up there too. But we went up there, Boy Scouts, and it basically turned into a blizzard once we got up to the top. It probably wasn't even the coldest, but you knew that there weren't going to be, you knew the warm comforts were not coming. You're still going to be camping up there, so wasn't thrilled about that. Yeah, even though I part of me misses forest and hiking and nature to some degree that I can't explain, I don't miss backpacking or camping. I'm fine skipping that. So, I'm trying to think of some. It's hard to say because I've gone out on I've done sledding or maybe just sometimes just trips to the grocery or someplace when it's just been a full-on blizzard in the past. And I grew up mostly in Southwest Virginia, so we got decent blizzards every now and then. And here I had a long trip when it was snowing that I took the bus out to hike in this part of forest I hadn't been in before. And then the bus schedule, I guess it got canceled or it didn't come back. So I ended up just walking back a quite long way. So I remember being pretty cold from that. But I don't think it's ever been so bad I've gotten full-on frostbite before. So that's, but I had good boots and socks on too. But yeah, probably some random hike. I don't know what. I haven't had these scenes like in the movies where they fall into a frozen over lake or something like that. I don't want to think about how cold that would be. Okay, I may start picking more questions now. Oh, and this one got a lot of points. Okay. Okay, well, they're asking about if I could look into the game Zombie Slayer DX for the Nintendo 3DS. And somebody okay, I'll say this. Somebody they're trying to find the soundtrack. Somebody emailed me about that, and I did a quick Google search, and I found the soundtrack. Like these, and apparently there was like extra tracks that like weren't part of the official one or something. That might have been a different game. But I found what looked like a pretty extensive soundtrack. It wasn't just like 10 tracks or something like that. But I maybe shouldn't link that because that might get them in trouble and get a takedown. So, but I'll just say I was able to find it through a Google search. So, yeah, I was going to say Nintendo is kind of a best case scenario for preserving the games versus creating awareness of the problem. Because Nintendo has a big reputation of, you know, cracking down on, like, well, fan games, really. But yeah, I go with that. But like ROM hosting or legit services. I think like what they shut down some of their online stuff for like the Wii or something like that. So it basically paying people got cut out of the copy of the game, or sometimes they release like limited edition stuff. However, out of all the consoles, I think Nintendo is the most emulated, and like maybe out of all their consoles. So the games are fairly safe in terms of just raw preservation, not legal preservation, but just if you're worried about these games disappearing, you're going to be able to. I'm not worried about Nintendo games disappearing from what I've seen. So it's good in the sense that these games all seem pretty safe. My understanding of it. I haven't tried emulating like the newer stuff. But at the same time, they're doing they every once in a while do really unpopular PR moves that doesn't show much, if any, respect for preservation. So it's kind of a carrot and stick with what they're doing, even though they may not realize that's what they're doing. So I'm not too worried about Nintendo games. And I'm really glad it does have the fanatical people creating these emulators for them, because that's what's gonna remain standing over a long enough period of time. So yeah, it's if the situation for all games is like Nintendo, I would never have even made the games to service video, because it's like, oh, okay, well, this is just a legal problem. It's not a practical problem, you know. Yeah, this is one I didn't have an answer to. They're saying if you could bring any 5 people back to life to have a conversation with, who would they be? I really don't know. I think somebody asked a similar question of this for just one. I think I answered Jack Fresco, which was sort of the futurist title. I'd be curious to pick his brain on ideas. However, I imagine some of the questions I have might be like big blind spots to what he was foreseeing, but maybe not. I really have no idea for the others. Let's see. Well, this is a good question. I had trouble I only thought of like one or two, I think, that I mentioned before. Yeah, chat, you can weigh in on this one too. what are a few movies that had really good trailers but were otherwise disappointing? A few movies or games? Well, the one I always think of that made me basically stop watching movie trailers is Terminator Salvation. That's a great trailer. It spoils pretty much the whole movie, and the movie's not that great. I mean, it's like okay, but it would have been a little bit better if I hadn't seen the trailer. Oh, somebody's saying every Bay Transformers movie in the chat. Okay. And another one that I probably mentioned this once before, and my memory's so blurry on it, maybe I'm wrong, but I want to say Rush Hour, because from what my memory of I saw the Rush Hour trailer, and I want to say they used every good joke in the movie in that trailer. So when you finally watch the movie, it's like it's only like the leftover jokes that just weren't that great from what I remember. Whereas the trailer, I remember them having a lot of funny jokes. So okay, someone's saying No Man's Sky for video games. Okay, so they're saying The Golden Compass. I didn't see the trailer. I saw the movie, and I thought the movie was just like, you know. The movie wasn't hugely disappointing. It was just kind of like, yeah, there's that expression I like in Poland, or yeah, a movie to watch, which, you know, means that it's not terrible, and if you need to kill time, it gets the job done, but it's not some classic that you're gonna be that you're gonna be thrilled about or watch over and over, that sort of thing. Okay, we have a vote for Wonder Woman 1984. I didn't see the trailer. I saw it. It's one I skipped chunks of, but it could be worse. Maybe there were some good moments in Wonder Woman 1984, but I skipped chunks where I'm thinking, okay, I just don't care about what these characters are talking about now. But I like the concept. Yeah, Wonder Woman 1984 had an interesting villain, and the concept behind the villain. I thought that part was that was probably what I liked the most about it. And I will say, yeah, here I'll make a challenge for comic book movies. I think out of all the comic book movies I've seen, or like the new wave since the Marvel stuff started, I want to say Wonder Woman may have the best music theme, like out of all of them. Like out of like the new wave of ones, it's quite memorable. So I think Ant-Man had another memorable one, but I kind of like Wonder Woman's theme more. So yeah, who has the best music themes out of all the new ones? Wonder Woman's theme makes you feel like something's really gonna happen. Like, so. Somebody's saying that they didn't know I was part European. Well, my ancestry's there's a lot of European, but I'm pretty much American who just lives in Europe now. I mean, I didn't move to Europe until like late 20s to be with my girlfriend then. So, I mean, culturally, I'm pretty much American. Let's see. Okay, somebody's saying Scream 5. Yeah, I kind of lost track of the Screams. I think I haven't seen the latest one. I think I saw the last one Wes Craven directed, but Scream sort of fell off. Scream, the first one's pretty good for what it is, and the second one, it's like I sort of stopped liking Scream after they killed, how am I forgetting his name? It's Seth somebody. He plays Joker in Mass Effect. He's Scott Evil, and well, whatever. You know who I mean. Seth something. Maybe I'm losing oxygen in the room. Yeah, it's like after they killed him in 2, it's like it just felt like it went downhill after that. So I didn't. Seth Green, yes, thank you. Uh, yeah, that was one of his better roles. Like it's. Let's see other movies. Yeah, I haven't kept with game trailers. I don't necessarily watch every single one. With games, it's usually easier to rope me in. Where if I see a screenshot and I just see a tagline of like what the game's about or the gameplay, that can sometimes be enough for me to go in on it. Especially because I'm going in cheap by the time I do it. Uh, so I don't always check out all the trailers, but so I'm saying Guardians of the Galaxy has a memorable theme. Well, that's the no, they're sort of cheating though because they're using an existing song. I mean, and also I don't even remember the orchestra theme for. Yeah, I mean like the actual score that was composed for the character, I mean, or the characters. I mean, Avengers isn't bad. Avengers isn't bad. Does the Iron Man theme count? Well, again, that's Ozzy Osbourne. You know that's that's a cheat entry. And I know it's blasphemy, but I actually don't really care for the Guardians of the Galaxy theme. It's not my kind of music. I do like Iron Man though, Ozzy. Uh, but yeah, I remember. I think I mentioned on a previous video chat my alternate theme for Guardians of the Galaxy. Oh, here, let me get the exact title. I'll put this in the description. Would be "Reach Out" by Cheap Trick, because that's from the same era and it has a similar kind of energy. But I like how that one sounds so much better. That one's really catchy. It was used in the Heavy Metal movie. Let's see. Oh yeah. Dragon Age Origins had badass trailers with Marilyn Manson music. I did see that. Yeah, I'd say Dragon Age wasn't really a disappointment for that, but they were kind of over. They're kind of spinning in a different direction than what the game is. You know, I mean, if you're busting out Marilyn Manson and then having lots of combat, you better have an action RPG. I mean, it's and Dragon Age Origins is more of like a kind of half normal, half kind of tactical RPG thing. So. Okay, so I'll look at some more. Should keep moving along here. Yeah, so I'm saying if I was if I was offered the opportunity to work on helping design the human side of a new game engine. Oh wait, oh yeah, I thought I'd check something. Would you consider it? And I think they were talking about like the interface of it. Somebody clarified on it. Probably not. Like I feel like that would probably be that would be best served by getting results from a lot of people and just seeing, and also have a lot of people willing to kind of experiment too. I mean, on the design end of things, because the user may not know what they want. That can sometimes be me for the user interface. But if they see some different systems, then they can find stuff that they like and they don't like, and then you can kind of whittle it down to what's likely to get the best results. I mean, one, I'm really busy, but that was sort of my goal with the GUI video, is that it wasn't to just say this is how things should be. It's that, hello, is anything happening here? I can tell there's problems. You know? It's like, could somebody smarter than me fix this? Or can we get just more feedback or eyes on this, or maybe artists can get more involved with coming up with nicer looking themes, or it's that was more like a cry for help than the GUI video, rather than I have wisdom to bestow upon you as to what this should be. I mean, it's uh, that strikes me as the sort of thing where the more eyes on it, the better. Because then we'll approach a better system. Is what not everything's like that, but the user interface I think is really like that. And plus, that's another area I feel like that's like ripe for brainstorming. I feel like we've barely scratched the surface of different ideas for interfacing. That it's just things are kind of calcified with how we design things, that we don't experiment as much with it because there isn't a market for it, and it didn't really. There's a lot of barriers for making that happen, and it's just kind of a like sort of a depressed area, I guess. Not physically, not emotionally depressive, but I mean like it just hasn't been able to rise to the prominence that it should take. So. Somebody's saying, like science, the more the GUI belongs to all of us, the less likely it is to be abused. Well, I'm not even. My video didn't even really focus on abuse that much, because, yeah, you can abuse the GUI by tricking people to click on things they don't want, that sort of thing. I was just thinking in terms of efficiency and how pleasant it is to use, and just aesthetics too. But yeah, I think it's the sort of thing, the more eyes on it, the better. Like it's, I don't have all the answers for that. In fact, I probably only have a fraction of the answers. Though when I do the follow-up, I'll give it my best shot. That's my plan. So it's certainly not going to be the dream GUI, but it'll at least get us thinking a little bit more on it. So. Somebody's asking why there's no longer an awards section. It just felt kind of redundant, but that said, I've been seeing this pop up a lot. The next Game Dungeons will have awards. So they may be less conventional than the previous ones, though, because I don't want these to be super obvious and everybody seeing them coming. so the awards may be mutating, I guess. I'm not against mutating things if I think it could be better. Somebody's asking, they're saying it might be too private. I don't mind talking about this. They're saying, what was your wedding like? It was really frantic, actually, because we had this Magda had this hair appointment at a hairstylist, and she originally was thinking of like, oh, maybe we do it like at a later time. I said, no, let's do the earlier time just in case something goes wrong. And it ended up being like an hour or two longer than it was planned, and it was kind of cutting it more to the wire. And my family and a couple of not my whole family, because not many could come out here. My parents and a couple of my friends came out here because I couldn't afford to have too many people come out here to Poland to do it. So I just had to kind of pick one of my friends was able to afford to come himself. He's kind of a globetrotter. Anyway, another one, I paid for him and his wife actually to come out as a friend of mine to visit. And they stayed together at the same hotel at a separate place. And when we were going to the wedding, they hadn't shown up yet. And it was getting closer and closer. So my entire side hadn't shown up yet to the wedding. So that was getting kind of nervous with that. And it turns out, like, we've given them the address and everything, but I think Google Maps steered them to the wrong place, even though I gave them like the exact address. So that they were, so yeah, actually my friend helped saving them. It's like, hey, why don't we try the address Ross gave us? And they ended up coming in at the nick of time with that. And it was, we had it at this sort of, I don't even know what to call it. It wasn't a church, but it was sort of this, in Poland, there's church weddings and then there's sort of like civil weddings. But like they have this building for the civil weddings that, yeah, you have to book it in advance. It's being used all the time. And it's kind of church-ish, but it has impressive architecture, and it almost had this kind of like imperial vibe to it. And then once we got there, you were able to pay more to have somebody play music as part of like the package of just having the civil wedding. I mean, I say civil wedding, it wasn't just like you show up at some office and just a bureaucrat. I mean, it had the full kind of ceremony as you expect from a church wedding, but they had someone play music and it wasn't that much more. So we paid for it, and it was this kind of older woman on just kind of a synthesizer keyboard, and she occasionally had some errors in them. And then my mother's, I guess it was funnier to her at the end of, yeah, after the ceremony was over, like they started playing music and you were expecting the normal wedding march, and instead she started playing Somewhere Over the Rainbow. And for some reason that was really funny to my mother. So she had to stop herself from laughing. And what the, like, I was trying to think there's something else that's kind of funny. Yeah, I mean, it was smallish, but, you know, there were more on Magda's side of the family because it's a lot easier for them to get here. But I'm trying to think of what else. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's it. Yeah. Because it was you know, Polish American wedding. They did it in Polish and in English, except I'm pretty sure they would say what we were supposed to say and then we'd repeat after them. And I'm pretty sure I made grammatically incorrect vows because I was repeating. I was trying my best to correct it on the fly, but you know, you can be kind of nervous getting married, so my brain wasn't operating at full capacity. So I tried, because they would say something grammatically incorrect, but I got what they were saying, and I would try to repeat the same thing, just correct it. But then a few times I slipped, and I wasn't able to. So yeah, I had yeah, some grammatically incorrect vows, but that's okay. That's okay. And then afterwards, yeah, we had just kind of a smaller reception that we were able to book something at a hotel where it was basically just like a dinner. And then Magda's friends, I forget if we had music or not. I think we did. And like, I think my idea was just something kind of light, like classical, you know. But her friends hijacked the audio system and put on their own playlist of dance stuff. So I've heard that's apparently a common thing that can happen. So, like, yeah, my main, and I'm talking about this stuff, but it was still relatively affordable, all the stuff we did. Like, that was one of my biggest reservations about getting married, is just that, can I afford the wedding? So, yeah, somebody in the chat saying, yes, me man love wife, un will not sickness health leave wife. Yeah, it wasn't quite that level, but like they were definitely using wrong, like verb and tenses, and it was, yeah, it was kind of like that. but it worked out. Oh yeah, and then coming back, I ended up dropping like the remainder of the cake, tripping on the stairs. We were both kind of, I had to clean that up. We were both kind of exhausted by that, so that wasn't so bad. That was back at our apartment though, or the apartment complex. But it could have gone much worse. And I'm pretty I'm pretty sure the most important thing is that my mother was able to attend the wedding, because if they hadn't shown up, that would have gone. I never would have stopped hearing that. So they haven't forgotten that I mentioned Torrens Passage. Well, yeah, I've played Torrens Passage. It's been a while back. I still remember some of the music to it. Like the opening theme. I don't know if there are any other real highlights of the wedding. It was relatively small, but yeah, it could have gone much worse. I think we got off lucky. Yeah, on the Abrupt Chaos Reddit channel, uh, wedding fails is certainly a recurring theme where they're dancing and somebody sets fire to something, or just I think one of them a floor collapses, or just I enjoy watching wedding fights, like the for entertainment value. So let's see. Okay, so I should go to more. Should go to more questions here. Okay, somebody's saying Shadowrun or Cyberpunk. Well, I only have a passing knowledge of both, but I think I'd have to go with Cyberpunk, because I feel like Shadowrun feels to me like you're just trying to mix too much together. Like you can have, because Cyberpunk, the Cyberpunk theme. Oh yeah, well, Cyberpunk has a theme, I guess, not necessarily Cyberpunk 2020 or 2077. Cyberpunk, there's all sorts of themes going on, and Shadowrun is mixing Cyberpunk and the theme and fantasy. Whereas fantasy has its own full palette of things you can explore with it. And it's like trying to mix both together. It's like trying to have, I see it a little bit like trying to mix pizza and ice cream. It's like they're both good, but it's like, I don't know, I feel like you can you get more of the full experience separately with the, that's making me, yeah, I was about to say that makes me question how far with technology can you go with fantasy, but I realize you can do it with contemporary times, because I was thinking of Harry Potter is a good example of that. That Harry Potter's all in on fantasy, but it takes place in a contemporary setting. And I've only seen the movies, but I was thinking the worst part of the movies was during when they're back in London and I felt like having like a wand shootout in the restaurant. I'm thinking feels kind of stupid now. Like this was much cooler when they were showing us all these weird kind of alternate reality fantasy things. That's the part's so much better, I thought, than like trying to mix it together. So yeah, somebody's saying mixing your guns and magic again. Yeah, I feel like it's better when you commit to one or the other. You know. Let's see. Okay, so go to more questions. Do you think that it's ethical to use people on addiction, smoke, alcohol, gambling, and minor infringement parking, for example, to generate income by taxing these fields? I feel like this is one of those where there's all kinds of paths you can take, and it depends on who's getting hammered by it and where the money's going, and I can see a lot of different options, but that's the part I would look at is like, okay, well, who's getting hurt the most by this? And what kind of outcomes is this producing? And I wouldn't really make like a blanket statement on it one way or the other. And of course, this reminds me of the movie Clerks, where there's the guy who's like who's a stealth chewing gum influencer. And I remember the line he says, where the guy's trying to buy cigarettes, and he's saying, yeah, this stuff's killing you. It's like, well, we all got to go sometime. He's like, yeah, but do you have to pay somebody to do it? Obviously, it's not that simple with addiction. But yeah, I feel like affects, the results, and yeah, look at the results and see if that's getting you where you want to go or not. Are you planning to go through the second bundle of games you bought from itch.io the same way as the first? I was, but then I got too busy. Do people still want me to do that? I'll see what the chat says. I can maybe do a stream of that later. Let's see. They don't know much about cryptocurrency, but what news does come to his attention? A point that it's finally on its way out for good. Did you get rid of all your tokens? You plan to just hold them no matter what? No, I still have most of them. I probably should. My taxes get so much more. If I sell one coin of anything, my taxes get so much more complicated that's been a huge deterrent for me spending them. Like, because then I have to declare. Yeah, then I have to declare. What's it called? Capital gains for both countries. And I think there's a way to not get double taxed on that. But if I do that, that means I can't use the normal method to avoid double taxation, where any earned income is below that. So I'm just so lost on how to handle that, because I have to file taxes for Poland and the United States, and I'm a expatriate. I'm self-employed expatriate, which that's the biggest deterrent on me. As for them being on the way out, I'm not even convinced of that. I mean, the way I see it, I'm sure a lot of them are. Well, I see it like the .com crash. There was a whole lot of stuff that had no basis and was just gonna die. But then you have companies like Amazon or Facebook that emerged from that, and those did well. Facebook might have been a little later though. Amazon for sure was during the .com bubble. The main use I'm seeing of cryptocurrency is if things get more crazy there's two things I see. If things get more crazy with regular currencies, then those might ironically be the more stable ones over a long period. So there's one that if people do continue using it, because this is a big if, like nothing's guaranteed with this stuff, then that could actually become some of them could become more inflation proof than mainstream currencies. And that might be enough to keep a certain amount of people using it. And so that's a function it can have. And another function is portability, or if funds get frozen for whatever reason, well, that can be sort of an escape route. Now that can be used for crime, or it can just be used for like a political dissident or something like that, or just who knows what's happening in the future. So I see those as the two things that might still keep some of them in the game. But I could also see it just all crashing and they're worth pennies. I really don't know. But those seem to be two functions that normal currencies don't have. So if there is some function there, then as long as people keep using it, then the value can stay there. So, uh, oh, somebody's thanking me for the Ultima 5 total conversion. Oh, okay, this is somebody who worked on it. Sure, I mean I mean it adds both the engine and porting over games that could use an uplift that potential going for it. Let's see. No, that's not true. Somebody's saying you have to convert your crypto in the real world currency to spend it. No, there are places that accept like Bitcoin or Ethereum. I mean, there's a much smaller market of things. But the thing is, even if you go, as I understand it, even if you buy something with that, you now owe tax liability as though on that purchase, as though you. Well, it sort of depends on how you. I think it depends on how you acquired it. So, like, if it was gifted, then you owe additional money once you convert it or spend it. But if it was given to you as income for something else, I think you still owe sales tax on, or maybe not. I'm lost on it. It's so take all the confusion about cryptocurrency and then apply that to two different countries, and then someone who's like trying to not get double taxed. So it could be I have to get double taxed on crypto if I don't want to get double taxed on normal income. That could be the case. Or I have to switch. Yeah, or I have to switch over to a more complicated system permanently, which case, I hate having to file taxes. Like it's not the concept of paying taxes, but just making it so complicated. Or it's not even. I feel like complicated almost isn't the right word, because you can have, like, what I do with something like civil protection video, that's very complicated. But there's a lot of logic to it, and there's a lot of different steps. You know, so you can break it down into small chunks where a lot of it, were on individual levels, it's not that difficult to figure out. It's just that as a whole, if you're not experienced with it, then it can seem kind of mystifying. Whereas with taxes, there's stuff that's intentionally there to obfuscate it. So I guess cryptic is a better word, but it's kind of cryptic and complicated. It's its own. There's stuff in. It's not meant to be easy to understand. So. But yeah, I have no idea with. Well, I'm seeing some comments that are kind of conflating NFTs with cryptocurrency. Those are two different things. I mean, do some people say they're all scams? I mean, maybe, but I guess the thing is, it's like, if you're saying cryptocurrency is a scam, that also how much of regular money is a scam or not? You know, where it gets complicated. I mean, not all of it. Obviously, money is needed for transactions, but some aspects of it are, or the stock market. You know, so a lot of it gets nebulous fast. Now, NFTs, I just can't. I don't know if I'd call that a scam exactly. It just strikes me as worthless, I guess. I mean, you can run scams with them. So, yeah, I guess I don't know. But yeah, cryptocurrency taxes are definitely complicated. Okay, somebody's saying, fun fact, in America and many other countries, you didn't used to have to file taxes. Government knows what you owe and would send you the bill in the mail. Many countries still doing it this way. Yeah, but there's a big lobbying effort, I think, by TurboTax to ensure. Yeah, in fact, I think the IRS actually proposed that a few years back, but the TurboTax lobbyist got in and said, like, no way, this is our entire business model, making sure taxes stay as complicated as they are. And the lobbyists tend to get what they want. So. Yeah, I agree with this part. Somebody's saying crypto is built on principles that make scams easy. Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's very Wild West, you know. Yeah, I'm sort of ambivalent, I guess, on cryptocurrency, where I think there are a couple functions it does perform that normal currency doesn't, but yeah, it's rife with scams also. So it's and it is wasteful. Although there's a lot of waste with economic. Yeah, I think I mentioned this in another video chat. The only thing I would say about the waste is if you're concerned about the waste from cryptocurrency, we are doing so much worse in many other areas. So it's almost, there's a term for this. It's not a scapegoat exactly. It's more like a diversion from where we're wasting even way more energy on different things. Like, I think if you wanted to, like, I forget what the statistic I said. Besides it was less than 1% of all energy use several months back, and that was when things were in full mining boom. Since Ethereum went off the sort of energy mining system, it's no doubt dropped since then, but it's still wasteful on many aspects. But I would say things like roads versus, things like asphalt or concrete or cement, like the energy level. Now you can argue those have practical value, but then we go way past that, and what you have to consider, well, over what span of time? You know, if this is just going to crack and fall apart in a decade or so, then is that really a good use of resources? I have to look at steel is another one that's incredibly energy intensive, which it kind of goes back to my point. We need to scale down resource usage. So it's not that I think people are wrong about the wastefulness of crypto. It's more that that's probably literally like the 20th in line. So if you're fully focusing on that aspect, if energy usage is your main concern with it, then you're looking at you're barking up the wrong tree, because that's like the lightweight one. But yeah, I have to look at a chart to see where most of the energy usage is. So and I think that's used by I think that's weaponized by other industries to draw heat off of them. So yeah, like let's say the oil industry or the fossil fuel industry is saying, yeah, look at all this energy crypto is using, because if you look at all the other usage of it, well, actually, that might not. I'm mixing things up a bit now in my head, but hopefully you get where I'm going with that. But yeah, I'm not really on the side of the cryptocurrency fanatics, but I just try to look at it what seems objective based on the information I know of with it. So I'm not really an advocate, nor am I necessarily against it. Though NFTs make no sense at all to me, except the only way I've seen NFTs make sense is if it is some sort of scam, where you can either use that as just a asset flip, or there is an angle to use it for tax evasion, I think, and or laundering. And those actually have a logic to them, except those are running scams then of a sort. And if you think I'm wrong on NFTs, here's a question for you. I thought about this like a month or two back. What is the value of NFTs if you never intend to sell them? So in other words, you want, because some people are saying, well, Ross, don't you understand wanting to collect things? It's like, yeah, I understand wanting to collect things, but you can get that from a screenshot. Like, I like looking at the different cards for Magic the Gathering. I can get that from a screenshot. Now, if I was playing the game, then you would need the actual card for some utility. And if I was doing it as an investment thing, then I would, also need the actual card. But yeah, what is the actual value of an NFT if you just want the picture, and you never intend to sell it? I'm not sure there is any, because they're saying if you aren't including your kids spending them, then yeah, no value. Well, no, that's spending. So, because a piece of art, you can buy that and have that for life, and you just enjoy looking at it. Well, you can get that for free from basically any NFT that exists from a screenshot. You can take a lossless screenshot, get a PNG of it. So, somebody's saying watermarking your artistic work. You can add a watermark on just a regular screenshot. You don't need an NFT for that. DeviantArt has watermarks, and some artists have like a big, like kind of F-shaped symbol in the middle if they don't want it copied or spread around. So, that's the question. Pretend you actually care about the item and you're not looking at this as some sort of monetization scheme. You just care about like what the art is, or the image, or whatever. Like, I can't see any utility from NFTs then. I guess you could use the blockchain as an authentication thing, but we already have systems like that are incredibly it's very inefficient way to do that. I mean, you could get again, I mentioned DeviantArt. You could send a transaction of money. I think most people trust major art sites or Amazon to handle the economic transaction, and then you get the art, as a download or something. I think there's enough trust in online finance for most things. So, okay, well, that's enough on that. I should start. Okay, and I'm only halfway through the question, so I'm just gonna start going to more of the rapid fire ones. Let's see. Ross, you said Doom levels are confusing to navigate. What do you think of Quake? Yeah, kind of the same thing, but I haven't played Quake in a while. And sometimes confusion can be good, though. Like, if it's really feels like different zones, and you're not sure like which door you came from, but like each has its own atmosphere, or the architecture is really cool to look at. That's the good kind of lost in a game. But I feel like there were a couple spots in Dark Souls that had that kind of feeling. I really like the map design of Dark Souls. It was the way it kind of flowed into each other. But it's that combined with that abstract feeling that I mentioned in the Killing Time episode. Out of all the classic first-person shooter protagonists from 93 to 2002 era, which ones would be your favorite? Serious Sam. If he squeaks in there, if he's old enough to be a classic one. Secondary ones, I'm not even sure. I mean, there's Duke Nukem, but I feel like Duke Nukem was kind of, well, he's really derivative. Most of his lines are from others. I guess I do like BJ Blazkowicz from the cover. Let's see. I like his character in the newer ones, but they ended up depressing him too much. They threw too much sad stuff his way for BJ Blazkowicz. I'd have to even think about more. I don't know. Serious Sam's number one for me. So, and I have to think about the others. He has the best one-liners in the business. So. Oh yeah. I guess I like Blade too, but Serious Sam still has better one-liners. Let's see. Have you considered getting a CRT? No, I don't really miss it. Yeah, I mean, they had aspects of them. Plus, if I'm just want to be, I will admit this is basically paranoia. I'd rather just not have, even though it's such a tiny amount, I'd rather just not have extra radiation from it. So, I mean, yeah, for old school games, it can, well, I guess here's the thing. For old school games, it does have a unique look to them, but, and of course, you don't have any input lag then. But the thing about it is that I like pixel art. I just like regular clean pixel art also. So I don't really miss like the original authentic look to it, even though it looks nice. But and the flicker too. Oh man, at 60 hertz it's awful. I mean at 85 hertz it's okay because it's not like a normal. Well, it's normal now. A normal LCD where it's like there's a black frame in between that it's not nice. The flicker from 60 hertz CRTs. So I was saying, what kind of comedy will the movie have? They're saying deadpan puns, slapstick. Probably won't have many puns. There will be some slapstick, but a little more, a little less on the goofy side of slapstick. More like trying to think of an example, but there'll be some dry humor, but I think there's going to be a lot of, maybe you would call it situational humor or just kind of chaotic humor, like things kind of getting out of control, that it just kind of becomes its own whirlwind of madness, but it's funny, That's what I'll kind of be aiming for a bit. I guess maybe like psychological humor, where you have certain characters that have like quirk. Yeah, there'll be definitely be quirky or kind of odd humor to it, or a little surreal. Some of that. It's just gonna have more than one kind, but it's not gonna really have puns. It's not gonna have like. It's only gonna get so goofy. Some stuff goes really goofy, and not gonna be like that, but. So I was saying, will there be a comic relief sidekick? No, it's gonna. There's gonna be so many comic situations within it. It's not even gonna need it. Like, or it'd be a debate. Yeah, there won't be like a comic relief sidekick exactly. Okay, more questions. Rapid round. Okay, I'm skipping some more. I didn't really watch the Game Awards. They're asking about that. I watched a couple of trailers, but I forgot to make a note of which. I didn't even see all the trailers, so I've been working a lot. I'll have to see which. A couple did look promising though. Yeah, I realized I don't care about the Game Awards, but that's sort of turning into a winter E3. So I guess there's interest in what the new games are. This is like. Oh, so is ask? Yeah, they're ask. This is a decent question. They're saying if I had to pick one from the following, for graphics features, which one would I pick? And we have anti-aliasing available for all games using 3D models, ability to remove any and all tint filters and bloom effects, constant smooth frame rate, seamless blending between skybox background and foreground quality, no draw distance pop-ins, model mod available so you can always play as a dwarf. I think I'd have to go with the removing any and all tint filters. I hate it. Like if it's just like, because you can use like stuff like reshade to change the color, but sometimes the damage is too deep to fix that. I think frame rate would be after that though. It's a close competition between that and frame rate. Because yeah, I think like one of the worst I saw for frame rate was the Death Trap Dungeon where it was locked to 15 frames a second. That one was kind of rough. But yeah, the tinning, I hate it if it's done badly. But like even now, I'm looking at like the screenshots or the footage of, oh, I forgot the name of it. It's Bethesda's new science fiction game, like Star something. But I'm sure the chat will know it. But I see it and I'm thinking, I don't like this tint color they're using. So, but that looks subtle enough that I can maybe fix that with something like reshade. Starfield, thank you. So I'm already seeing that I don't like this, what they're doing with the tinting. So, and that game's not even out. So yeah, I think out of those tints. Oh yeah, and the final answer was model mod available so you can always play as a dwarf. No, that's just a bonus. And the anti-aliasing that's one of the reasons I went for this monitor. It's not as bad. It's definitely better not having anti-aliasing as you bump the resolution, because then the pixels get tinier so it doesn't jump out as me more. So like Echo still needs it. Echo is like a worst case scenario for anti-aliasing. But a lot of games, I can almost get away with like FXAA or something on it. So on this monitor. So hopefully that's something resolution will work itself out. Though that doesn't save me from the retro PlayStation 1 style games where they're forcing it on you. So. Do you have plans for more civil protection videos, or is that a retired series? It could happen, but it's not going to happen until after the movie, I don't think. And it's probably not going to happen on Source Engine. I would have to port a lot of assets. This is a good question, but it didn't get enough votes. They're saying you mentioned game dungeon that remind you of your life. I was wondering which game protagonist or secondary character of all those featured so far in Game Dungeon felt the most similar to you. I'd have to think about it. Like I can't think of any offhand that like I really like. Yeah, this is how I am. Yeah, but maybe I just need to play more of the games. I'll think about it. I'll think about that one maybe for next time if I remember. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm skipping more now. Yeah, that's not an easy question. You were pointed the head of humanity and everyone had to follow your orders. What would your short and long-term goals be? Well, actually, I can't answer that. Basic short-term goals: get everybody's basic needs met as soon as possible. Stop as much needless death as possible. And that would kind of be the goal for the long term too. So. Okay, somebody's asking a question that's going to get answered in a future video, so I can speculate. Okay, well, this is longer, but it looks like a good one. Let's see. Do you find merit in the ideas of anarchists such as Emma Goldman? I'm not familiar with her. Do you have faults that you don't see discusses in these circles? Okay. In order to renew our systems by being uprooted, metaphorically purged, and a cleansing fire might be appealing to many. No, I mean, well, if you're talking about systems being purged in a cleansing fire, yeah, the whole point of me being focused on sustainability and everything is to avoid lots of death. And if you're trying to, again, I'm not familiar with this person, so I can't speak, but just looking at the framing of the question, if you're trying to just wreck everything and burn it out, well, that probably means a lot of violence and people being killed. And that's not necessarily a recipe for stability either. I mean, however, what I think will happen is you'll see a lot of institutions just implode. So they'll collapse on their own. You don't need the cleansing fire. What you need is being a movement ready to swoop in once that does happen. So, I mean, it's collapsing itself is the way I see it. Now, obviously, that doesn't help with things that we can't bring back, like parts of the ecosystem or again, people dying. But, I mean, it's so much easier to be in the right place at the right time than to try to overthrow an immense amount of power, you know, so. Yeah, well, it's like I mentioned in the Life is Strange episode, the Napoleon quote, that, you know, if your enemy's making a mistake, don't interfere with your enemy making a mistake. You know? Let's see, what would you propose in a new system that doesn't just lead to the same problems developing again in the future? Say in 1 to 2,000 years. I have no answer for you. Like I said, the corruption is the problem I see that just keeps coming back over and over again. So it's you tell me. I can't figure it out. I've tried to think about it. I haven't been able to figure it out. Okay, skipping some more. Let's see. If mech suits, agile exoskeletons were an invention the average person could potentially afford one given enough savings, what industries do you see arise from the advent of them? Yeah, and they mentioned my first thought, like the elderly, or maybe people who are more disabled. Any ideas where you could also benefit from this? Possibly transportation if you had like a really super power source that could run really fast in them. Yeah, you wouldn't even need a car. You can just run over across town in a few minutes. Have way more maneuverability. So. It's any job where you know, strength is really important and it's not like a competitive thing. It's just, ironically, that loader from Aliens, you know, that might be a real practical use of a mech to load crates all over the place. So. What is your opinion of hardware refurbishment as a countermeasure against planned obsolescence and pollution? Yeah, I mean, it helped. It helps, but it's not a solution. That's what I feel like. And I think that used to be like the original saying that there's been an active effort to sort of downplay. It was it reuse, repurpose, recycle, I think. And recycle was the last option because it's not practical for a whole lot of items, you know. I forgot the 3 R's now. I forgot one of them. But yeah, it helps for sure, but it's not a solution. Reduce, reuse, recycle. Thank you. So. I have played somebody's asking if I played American McGee's Alice or Alice Madness Returns. I played through the original. I played a little bit of Madness Returns. I remember doing a lot of FOV hacking because the FOV was way too tiny in that for me. I just had trouble getting into the second one, so I didn't play through that one. First one's okay. I mean, it's Cheshire Cat's the best character. He has a lot of good quotes. You know, when is a croquet mallet like a billy club? Well, I'll tell you, whenever you want it to be. So he's asking if I've heard of bardcore. I've stumbled into a couple of bardcore videos where they take modern songs and then adapt it to the instruments. I also saw a one where they took Teen Spirit by Nirvana. So it's like Teen Spirit by Nirvana and made it into, here, I'll add this to the list. And the other one was where they tried to use authentic instruments and they had the singing in Latin instead. So yeah, it's kind of neat. Yeah, that they have Slim Shady and bardcore. That was another one I saw, but they didn't have any singing in that one. But yeah, the idea is you're taking regular songs and converting them to medieval instruments. It can be pretty good. Yeah, Gangster's Paradise was another one I heard in that. The online art community is currently extremely hostile towards AI-generated artwork. One apparent reason is they fear being replaced. Do you want to weigh, as an enthusiast of AI assistants, do I want to weigh in on this? I think they're becoming the classic Luddites. Again, Luddite, the classic Luddite. They were the ones that attacked the machineries of the factories because they were losing their jobs. And it was a real, see, you can paint that as anti-progress, but no, those are real consequences for the people affecting their livelihood. And I mean, it's a problem. And the thing is, it's not just the art. See, the way I see it is this is a problem that needs to be solved, but it shouldn't just be online art people. This should be like everyone who's struggling to make it, because this is kind of where we're heading in the future. And the sane way to go to it is to have it's what I mentioned before, we need something that, what do you do when there's more people who need to support themselves than there are enough paying jobs to support them? So, and we don't have an answer for that, and I think it's going to get ugly. So, yeah, I take no pleasure that it's causing problems for artists. It's just, I see the potential. I see the potential of it. I'm not. It's like the crypto. I see both the good and the bad on this. So, I mean, I'm excited because of the stuff it's opening up for me, and they'll probably be happy to know I'm not using it, at least currently, to replace artists. In fact, I'm using my number one thing is to use it to fill in is to convert work from existing artists to ultra wide. And then with the VR stuff I was talking about, which I don't think is really taking jobs away, like the Dream software. But yeah, their concern is legitimate, but I mean, I think it's like the classic Luddites. So I hope we solve more problems, but I'm not optimistic. Okay, yes, I thought people might mention this one. They're saying, could you bring to attention the public Unreal and Unreal Tournament games are being delisted from the stores? Oh, it's being delisted entirely? I thought it was just shutting down the multiplayer. Oh, well, yeah, see, that one's kind of interesting because it covers both sides. It covers both sides of the spectrum. Games like Unreal Tournament, at least up to Unreal Tournament 2004, those are safe. you're going to be able to continue to play those multiplayer. I mean, you just need a copy, and someone else can host the game because this is how it used to work, and you just connect to the IP address. No support necessary from the publisher. So I'm actually kind of surprised it's stayed so long. However, this covered several titles, and some of them I don't know the details of, and they may not be like that, and you might be losing things. And actually for the console versions, this may not apply to them, although that's unfortunately a problem with I think that might be a problem with most consoles themselves. Like, I think, by all means, correct me if I'm wrong, I could be, but I want to say any console game that has relied on connecting to the internet for a multiplayer. So we're not talking about like cross-play, but like in the same room or something, or LAN, or connects to another console. I think maybe the Dreamcast had something like that, actually. But once it connected on the internet, they were always at risk because the console makers never had any plan whatsoever once they were done with the console, and it was all going to die. Now, that said, there have been emulation efforts that have come up, like for sure for PlayStation 2, I know, where they use computers to emulate the protocols required for that, and you can still have console multiplayer through the computer, but that was all reverse engineered. The publishers didn't do anything to help with that. So consoles have always been on death row for anything online, unless you got lucky and they were reverse engineered and emulated, or the protocol was. So that's one of the reasons I've always been like a little about consoles. Is because you're kind of trapped in a sense. But it's there's if we're being honest, there's more traps emerging on the PC, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that in a future video. But yeah, but the old Unreal Tournament stuff is safe. They could remove them, they could shut it all down, and you can still do multiplayer Unreal Tournament 2004 with people across the internet, whatever. But the newer ones, maybe not. See, we didn't see the big transition happen until like mid-2000s, I think. Before that, it was mostly just, or on PC anyway. I guess on consoles it was sooner, but it was mostly just MMOs that were kind of like on death row stuff. Yeah, I don't like seeing any game getting killed. But yeah, with something like with these old things, literally, I think the only thing you're missing is some convenience, because they would give like a list of the servers. But I think there's like some websites you can go to from fans where you can find a similar listing, and you can maybe use a third-party utility to kind of keep a similar thing going. So yeah, those games are still safe. This is what I mean. This is what I mean. I repeat all the videos because some people associate online multiplayer with, well, the game's going to die when support ends. What do you expect? No, it doesn't. You're going to be able to play Unreal Tournament till you can't run computers anymore. Multiplayer online, because that's how they used to design all of them. And it doesn't mean that doesn't mean they have to design them all that way, but that means they sure as hell need something like that when there's an end of life plan. I mean, well, I'm getting going on my rant again, but yeah, that's the point you have to drum home, is this is how it works. I mean, this is how online multiplayer used to work and will keep on working. And it's shutdown proof by doing it this way. You're never going to lose your game like that unless you yourself lost it. Okay, I got to go with more questions. Got a rant on that one, but that's one of my pet peeves, is when people think online multiplayer, of course it's going to shut down. Why would it? No, it doesn't have to. This is all artificial. It's like some friggin' dystopia, the way we're handling it. Yeah. Okay. Somebody was asking if I have an exact countdown of the videos. Yeah, between 1 or 2, and I forget the number. I have to check my logs, but I wrote it down on the website. Okay, having to skip more questions, though some are going to get answered in a later video. Would you consider playing Generation Zero? Absolutely. That's one of the ones I'm really looking forward to. Well, they're saying it's open world multiplayer. I think it's a single player game too, isn't it? Let's see. But that's another one I might need to upgrade for too. I'm kind of sticking to older on this monitor. I'm sticking to older 3D games or else 2D games at the moment, so I can hit. So I'm not having a chop fest, you know. Okay. Yeah, the Christmas episode is underway. Somebody's asking about that. I have all the video footage recorded, not all the extra stuff I add in yet. The dialogue is like 2/3 recorded, something like that. Same with the script is like 3/4 done, and recorded and edited the 2/3 part. And I'm just gonna have to edit a bunch together, but it's there's no backing out of it now. So, and that's what I'm gonna do after I'm done with this. I'm gonna eat and go edit more. Okay, checking more questions. Okay, somebody saw a similarity between Step Aside, Alien, full motion video. Okay, yeah, here, I'll mention this because I was going to put this on Twitter, but I'll have a link to the video chat so more people can see this too. Gotta leave a note. Okay, that looks like a young Neil Maskell, British actor known for Kill List, Utopia, and Bull, among other projects. Linked as a comparison I made. Oh, okay. Here, I'm putting the, oh, it's from Conquest Earth. Okay. Yeah, it does look similar. I'm put that in the chat there. I'll put it on the, but the one I saw, after last week, I rewatched a movie I remembered liking, but my memory was so fuzzy on it, I wanted to watch it again. It's called I'm All Right, Jack. And it's a comedy about union workers or union labor and the bosses and the industry bosses pit against them. It's a British, it's an old one, like from '59, I think. Black and white. It's still pretty funny. It's pretty good. But while I was watching it, there was an actor in it that from some angles looked a lot like Mark Zuckerberg. I was like, wow. I took a screenshot. I'll post it. I don't know if I can post it directly to the Twitter chat, but I'll post it in the description of it so you could get a look if you want to see it. But yeah, the movie held up pretty well, I thought. Okay. Yeah, unfortunately, we ended up going to the worst case scenario with that railway union thing going on. So hopefully there's going to be a mass quitting from that industry from those who can do it because they're just treating them badly. But I mean, that'll cause problems. But you know, if the only way to not cause problems is to abuse them, then what? Better to face your problems sooner rather than later. That's my kind of attitude on that. That's what made me want to watch that movie again. Oh, okay. If somebody's asking about the movie, they're confused on it. Don't worry about it. You'll be unconfused in time. You can't copy PlayStation 4 save data to a USB drive from your PlayStation 5 without signing into PlayStation Network. Why? Because it's the same reason. It's just they're going for maximum control because I guess that's what the people in charge prefer, even if that interferes with things like preservation, customer experience, practicality, lawsuits. Hopefully, that's what I really hope they're going to be interfering with. I mean, that probably won't do it, but yeah, I am. Yeah, I said earlier in the year, you're not going to have to unsubscribe from me from not taking action on the France thing. I said to do that. You're not going to need to do that. I've been taking action on that, and I'm going to finish it up by the end of the year. Or finish up the steps I can do from my end by the end of the year. So, okay. Have you watched All Quiet on the Western Front? I've seen the original. I've seen the black and white adaptation. I haven't seen the new one. How does it compare to 1917? I did see 1917. That was interesting. Definitely a lot of, the follow the camera the entire time kind of movie. Yeah, and somebody's giving me crap for 7 months since the last Freeman's Mind, Ross. Yeah, I know. Again, I'm gonna give you no episode instead of a bad episode though. So I've gotta. We'll see. Everything's triage with the videos. Okay, you can ask some live questions. Sorry this went so long again. I'm finishing up reading the ones from that were submitted. You're wondering, yeah, somebody's wondering how I'm holding up with Windows 10, the GUI. It's not as good, but I'd still have some options. And I need to learn more mouse gestures. Are there any console exclusive games that interest you? Yeah, several. I brought it up before, but if people really want me to make a bigger list next time, you can get that more votes. Because I've answered that one before, but I could probably add a few to it. Are there any characters, whether from a game or other kind of media, that you really want to play as in different genre or applicable game? You confuse me with your wording, or else I'm reading this bizarrely. Are there any characters you really want to play as in a game? I don't have a real strong opinion about it. Not off the top of my head. I care more. I can be kind of pretty neutral about characters in games. It just depends. It just depends. I guess if it's like heavily narrative focused, but I'm trying to think of ones I really liked. The character I'm playing doesn't make or break the game for me usually, unless they're incredibly irritating. So, favorite James Bond movie? Oh, that's a good question. I don't know if I have a single favorite. I guess I would just list off a top few favorites. Goldfinger, You Only Live Twice. Casino Royale is pretty good. I kind of like Spectre, the newer ones. I guess GoldenEye. It'd probably be from those. Opinion on John Carmack leaving Meta. Good. I didn't know he left Meta, but yeah, he's going to work on AI stuff, and Facebook is just trying to strangle VR in its crib with a walled garden. So good. Like, will Dead Game News go dark during the hiatus? I sure hope so. Is a hot dog a sandwich? I already answered that. It's like the Alice in Wonderland quote. It is if you want it to be. You know? What genres do you feel are underrepresented in modern gaming? For him, it's Command and Conquer style Real-time strategy games need to make a comeback. Yeah, that'd be good. Yeah, because we were awash in them in the 90s and early 2000s, and just not nearly as many now. But there's still some. That's what I've answered before, and like the chat might even be able to tell you what my answers are that I have to think about. I'm kind of need more oxygen. What? But yeah, I guess like the sort of the Dungeon Siege style game. I like that. Have you had much experience with the Metal Gear franchise? No, I need to. I've watched a playthrough of the original and some of 2, and I've seen the big reveal of 2, but I'll probably watch more of them in the future. I'm not huge on stealth games, but it's certainly worthy to watch a playthrough of. So, yeah, playthrough is when I'm interested in the story. I like the game seems interesting, but I don't like the gameplay. So, but I think they veered off of that for the later ones. But like I heard 5's really good, but it's like mostly in the desert, so I don't really want to play a game in the desert. So I can be picky. What are your thoughts on the Steam Deck? I don't have much of an opinion since I'm not into mobile gaming, but I'm glad it's boosting Linux gaming because I see that as kind of an escape route if things get bad enough on Windows. Favorite George Romero film? I guess I'll go with Dawn of the Dead. It's just solid. You should cover Eternal Darkness for GameCube on Game Lunch. Yeah, a bunch of... See, I wonder about that because I'm always a little more reluctant to cover games a bunch of people have covered and talked about, and even double when it's a console exclusive, because like I'm having to run an emulator to do it, and then it's... I don't know. People have so many opinions on it. I mean, I want to play it sometime, but I don't know. Somebody's saying they feel everybody has stopped caring about VR in general. Not the enthusiast. No, it's a very dedicated niche audience. And hey, I think Valve's working on the Deckard. Yeah, I have a stronger opinion about the Deckard than the Steam Deck. And I'm thinking Pimax isn't going to make their deadline with the 12K because they were saying fourth quarter 20 this year. That time's running out. Star Trek Originals or Next Generation? I feel it's like AC/DC current. The original would be DC current. The Next Generation would be AC. Or I think you have better average episodes on the original, but the best episodes are on Next Generation. But you also have episodes that are worse for my taste on Next Generation than the ones from the original series, or most of them. What are favorite things you want in your pizza? Well, I'm having to really cut back now because some of them may mess up my skin because I have to figure out what the hell's wrong with me with either an allergy or autoimmune disease or whatever it is. I don't even know. But, if that wasn't an issue, I mean, I'm kind of I don't really care for olives, but, I mean, I like olive oil, but I can eat a lot of stuff. I mean, yeah, if there was just no health consequences or whatever for me whatsoever, I would have, mushrooms, onions, pepperoni, sausage, chicken, corn, green pepper, maybe jalapeno, maybe a little bit. Geez, what other else is there? Pineapple, ham. I like lots of toppings on pizza. I'm trying to think of some other ones that. I mean, I don't really like fish. I don't think I would want fish on pizza, but okay, this is making me hungry. But okay, somebody enjoyed salad fingers and David Firth animations. The reason people don't know multiplayer games used to work in perpetuity and that games used to come working is that because the industry has gaslit everyone to thinking that. How do we deprogram the masses? I don't know. I was trying with my games as a service video. You tell me. We might be running out of time, but I'm gonna. If I can have the victory in France, may not matter. So. Is Mandalore Seth or vice versa? They both name drop you. I doubt their styles are very different. I doubt it. Okay, somebody enjoy Metal Gear Solid 5 a lot. I might get, maybe I'll play it eventually, but it's low on the list. There's so many other games. Generation Zero is much higher for me. Also, Cloudpunk. That one's way up there for me. Poland has national health care, right? It's sort of a hybrid where I'm not even sure the details of it exactly, but basically by paying, again, I'm self-employed, so I pay some extra taxes here. And just by paying that tax, I basically have health insurance, and so does Magda. So it's kind of like by paying taxes, you also get, or Social Security, like the equivalent of Social Security, you also get full health care coverage, basically. So, is it a scheduling access problem? Well, they do have waiting times, but you can pay for a private one to if you want it faster, which is still much less in the United States, even with cost of living considered. But yeah, you don't have to play the insurance games. It's like you're either covered or you're not, and I'm not sure how it works if you're not covered exactly, but I think you still do get, I think even if you're unemployed, you still can get coverage. So, but I want to say it's better than U.S. healthcare coverage on every single metric, unless you have a lot of money. So yeah, if you have a lot of money, you could probably get first-class healthcare in the United States. If you don't, then it's cheaper or faster. Or maybe not faster. Like, because people complain about the free one being slow, but then it's free. So if you need it just as fast as possible, then you have the private option, and then it's cheaper. But if you wanted like world-class coverage, then you were like a sultan or something, then yeah, then the USA would be better. But that's not me, so I'm glad it's what it is. What's your favorite Wolfenstein game you've played? Maybe the New Order. It's because Wolfenstein, the one I forgot the name. Yeah, Return to Castle Wolfenstein. That one was like okay, but I don't know. New Order had some stuff I didn't really like, but then it had some stuff I liked a lot. So. Okay, and that looks like it's drying up for the questions. So what's the last one? This little icon. Yeah, so this is what I mean. Okay, yeah, you can see this on the chat. This little pin this message, reply icon. It's blocking me from reading the text. That's like an objective problem with UI. A lot of what I was talking about was subjective, but okay, so I have to, and did something, did you hear what we accomplished in Fusion? Yeah, but I'm going to remain skeptical until I'll end it on this. I'm going to remain skeptical until it really starts established for a couple reasons. One, we could have had, my understanding is we could have had thorium reactors like decades ago. We still don't. Two, I've seen some big claims before that I'm not really sure if they're how much, if it's what is being reported. Like the last one I was thinking was I was reading how Google made time crystals, and my understanding isn't on a level to really validate that or not. But it's like, well, does that have any practical value, or is that established, or was that just maybe they're jumping the gun on it? And more recently, there was that guy at Google saying that AI, we had a sentient AI, and I think people have debunked that one by now. I was never buying that one from the beginning. And a few years back, CNN was, so not like Weekly World News or something, like a tabloid, was reporting that the doctor was going to do a human head transplant on a living patient. And it's like, are you freaking kidding me? Like, and oh, surprise, surprise, that ended up falling through and he didn't do it. Yeah, maybe because he didn't want murder charges. I mean, so the fusion stuff probably has more going for it than that, but we'll see. We'll see. I'm remaining skeptical on that. So, okay, somebody's saying India's doing thorium. Do they have a reactor up right now? Here, let's see. India thorium. Because, I mean, we could have been doing this decades ago. Okay, the test reactor is one of the two civil. Okay, so maybe Indian test reactor reaches Operation Landmark. That's from March of this year. Okay, so how many decades did that take? When was like the first thorium reactor plans? Yeah, it's been decades. Okay, molten salt reactor achieved its first self-sustaining nuclear reactor on June 1st, 1965. So yeah, if we're on that timetable, I'm not going to be paying a lot of attention to fusion power. So again, there can be forces at work ensuring things don't happen, you know? Okay. Well, I didn't really want to end on that note. I'm going to ensure some things do happen that are within my control. And I guess have a good Christmas, or, oh yeah, I heard somebody say Christmas kiss recently. I like that term. Or Christmas ka, or yeah, I think it was Christmas ka. I like that one. All right, I'll see you. This went on too long. See you later.